Hello and welcome. Welcome students, soon-to-be graduates, parents, families, spouses, designers at large, our live stream audience, and everyone here to witness Metamorphosis, the official Thesis Festival celebrating the class of 2021. I'm Liz Danzico, the founding chair of the MFA Interaction Design program at SVA, the School of Visual Arts in New York City. I'm thrilled to be with you today as you're about to witness a group of humans with ideas that will change behavior in the world. It's my job to give you some context for what you're about to see and introduce some of the most remarkable people who have helped to make it happen. Big question, what does it mean to make change? 10 years ago this month, graduating students from this program, hello class of 2011, announced their thesis projects from the stage of the SVA Theater, the first class to do so. At that time, to make change meant that 17 people had to believe in a new program and be the co-architects of that new program, and then nearly 2 years later, graduate as its first inaugural class. So what does it mean to make change today? Often we only see change after it happens, but that's not the point of design. Design is not about making change so that we only see it after it happens, and we've never sort of experienced that as much as we have over this past 15 months. These 19 students will present to you today their thesis explorations. But in order to get here, their change happened well before today. Their change happened well before their thesis journey even began. The journey to graduate school, for those even privileged enough to be able to go to graduate school, happened long before one even enters their first course. Today, we're going to celebrate that change. We're going to celebrate the residue of that change, the outcome of the change, but we want to celebrate all the challenging and invisible parts that came before that. I want to acknowledge that the graduate students have triumphed over the most challenging of circumstances. Let's just acknowledge them: a health crisis, an economic crisis, racial reckoning, and through that triple crises, a series of personal events that have made our academic and personal lives more challenging at every turn. But as a result, these humans have triumphed. They've supported one another and emerged with work that elevates the human condition, finding ways to bring new approaches to human issues, to introduce change where change is desperately needed. And it's in that spirit that I ask you today, listen for an opportunity for change as you watch and listen to these remarkable people. We are together, alone together, collectively supporting the thesis projects that started when our lives were quite different, in a different world. It took imagination and resilience for them to finish with the grace and power that they are today. And now it's our turn to sort of imagine how to connect these individuals to what comes next as we turn back out into the world, into what is for all of us going to be turning a page into a new chapter. So shortly you're going to hear ideas that range from personal to the speculative, from the pragmatic to the fanciful, but all of them in this program are grounded in the possibility for fortifying us for a world where change is our raw material. There is a canon of people responsible for helping bring these individuals to where they are today, but one person in particular that have helped guide the students through their journey, and that is Krystal Persaud, who teaches the thesis course, a 2-semester course. Krystal is a remarkable person herself, an entrepreneur and a leader who just this year, and I'm sorry to have to mention this, Krystal, got a deal from Mark Cuban on Shark Tank, was featured on Martha Stewart for her inventions just in the past couple of months alone. And stars aside, her fierce dedication to the students has never wavered even a bit. And she has guided these students through their thesis journey, thick and thin, rain and shine, online and off. And I'm just honored to have had her be a part of this. So I'm honored to, at this moment, turn it over to her to talk to you for a bit. And let's hear what she has to say. Over to you, Krystal. Thanks.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're here tuning in. First, I'd just like to take a moment to congratulate the 19 students who have finished their thesis projects and are graduating this year. We were never actually in one classroom together for 2 whole semesters. And I know there's a lot about that experience that we all miss. From just sitting next to each other and being able to look over someone's shoulder and collaborate with them, to even hearing the sound of the laser cutters and the CNC machines in VFL, to the late nights in studio, contemplating your projects and wondering how you're going to finish it all of those moments that we all really missed. What we did do is spend almost 100 hours on Zoom together, believe it or not, over the course of almost 8 months. And while we didn't have those same classroom moments, I think we did experience a lot of the same breakthroughs, sometimes breakdowns, productive breakdowns, and even some silly moments where we could unwind, play with Snapchat filters. I know my personal favorite is when Frank showed up as a Gatorade bottle. The theme this year is Metamorphosis. And the students chose this theme because it really is a time of transformation. The way that we live and work before COVID is not going to be the same as we exit the pandemic. And this is really a special time of incubation to think about and change the way things are. And that's exactly what these students did. Before we get started, I want to take a moment and thank all of the thesis mentors and Bill Smart, our public speaking coach, for spending the last many months with students, coaching them, encouraging them, and helping them bring these projects to life. And what you will see today are 19 students. Their presentations will be about 7 minutes long, followed by a brief Q&A with me, asking them questions about their process and their inspiration. These projects are broken into 5 sub-themes under the umbrella of Metamorphosis. Those themes are optimize, connect, reflect, educate, and impact. So without further ado, let's kick things off and get started.
Before COVID-19, we loved participating in large-scale public events. What do you miss the most about in-person events? It could be the vibrant atmosphere, energy from speakers, passionate crowds, socializing, or yes, finger foods. However, 6 feet social distancing guidelines transform every single in-person interaction into a flat screen. This is our new normal. Because of this rapid transition, we all have felt that remote events set us apart not only physically, but also emotionally. The current virtual events fail to differentiate themselves from generic video streaming services, even though the way we learn and interact with others is completely different from just watching YouTube. Keeping user engagement remains the top challenge. In pivoting to virtual events, 35.5% of event professionals think engagement is the biggest challenge. There are 3 key pain points in the current virtual event journey. Let's dive into each moment one by one. The virtual events don't offer enough context along with the speaker sessions. While looking for additional information on our own, we end up being lost and distracted. Speed dating networking sessions make us feel awkward and nervous. We may feel better if we connect with someone who has a lot in common instead of just meeting random people. After a session, we close the video stream and lose everything from the session. We want to have a centralized place to keep all the materials for future reference. But let's think about it. These pain points are not new to us. We've experienced them in in-person events as well. The virtual environment just escalated those pain points and brought them to our attention. So my goal is to elevate the strengths of virtual environments instead of replicating in-person interactions. Introducing 3Feet. 3Feet is a platform that helps event attendees engage in virtual environments through optimized learning and networking experiences. It's easy to use, contextual, and personalized. Let's take a look at how it works. Imagine that you join a virtual conference. You book a couple of sessions you like. 3Feet visualizes your timeline of the day. It will help you manage your time and schedule. As the session begins, 3Feet helps you explore your ideas with new interactions. To take notes, you don't have to open other apps or devices. Just double-click the screen that inspires you. Jot down your questions or ideas right there. And click Save button. 3Feet automatically collects your notes and screenshot of the video in one place. You can also write any ideas and questions without double-clicking screens. Powered by AI, 3Feet can understand speaker speech. So look at this, you just got the answer. If it knows the answer of your question, you will get the answers right away. Like this. If not, it motivates you to engage in speaker Q&A session to ask questions. With your notes, you are eager to join the Q&A session. You may not remember every contents and you may be afraid of missing out, but no worries. 3Feet reminds you of the content by offering the information, such as summary of the topic and bio of the speaker, speaker's presentation slides that helps you go back to what you've learned. You can also check your saved notes here by clicking a pin button, or find them in My Notes button on the bottom navigation. Miss some part of discussion? Check Talk Summary automatically generated by AI. It'll summarize the conversation in real time and help you catch up with the discussion. 3Feet helps you better understand the context and learn in depth. Now we join the networking session. 3Feet uses AI to find the best breakout group for you based on the pre-survey. It reduces social anxiety by providing 3 ways of icebreaking. The first thing is keywords. They indicate why you're matched with others in the group. Since all participants were in the same session, you can also discuss the topic suggested by the speaker. Do you often break out other people's name and their introductions? 3Feet can help. Just hover the mouse over other people's name tags. It reminds you of their detailed profiles. It's that easy. Finally, you attended all the session you wanted. When the blue bar reaches the end, wow, 3Feet celebrates your achievement. But this is not the end. 3Feet asks you to save this personalized summary of your attendance. You can send over the summary to your email or download as PDF. It helps you review what you've learned from the event and follow up with people you met. Through 3 feet, you would love virtual events because it's more accessible and efficient than in-person events. In-person gatherings will resume someday in the future. I believe new ideas born during the pandemic will remain. 3 feet will help people learn deeper and connect closer to each other, regardless of where they are. Thank you.
Hyelim, congratulations on developing 3 feet. I wish that we were using 3 feet right now.
Thank you. Thank you for kind words.
Yes. One thing I'd love to hear you talk through is I think 3 feet is a very ambitious platform and vision that could replace Google Hangouts, Zoom, Loom, other virtual conference and video platforms. Why did you decide to make 3 feet its own platform versus a plugin for another company?
The reason why I started this project is that I experienced the other platforms and then they don't solve the core problems because they started with the other problems like just video conferencing, like in company-wide video conferencing, or just like talking with other family and friends. So they are not basically built for virtual events. And then I think I need to propose different ideas, just only focusing on virtual events and other big scale events.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned this in your presentation at the end, but this 2020 and 2021, you and I might have gone to a couple in-person conferences, which were all virtual. What do you think will happen to the future of events? When COVID is over, do you think we'll go back to in-person events?
Yeah, sure. I think virtual environments cannot solve every in-person interactions, like cannot fully replace those interactions. So I think people will start host new in-person events. But I think people also found strengths of virtual events during this pandemic. So I think some of businesses or companies like start thinking of hosting virtual events simultaneously, or they can adapt some hybrid format to appeal to the broad audience all over the world.
Yeah, that's interesting. Hybrid events where you can buy a virtual ticket or an in-person ticket. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and then maybe the ticket price will go down if they take a hybrid mode.
Yeah, that's true. My last question for you is more of a fun one. This has been a really difficult 8 months being in your last year of grad school. What would you say was the most difficult part of developing 3 feet?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I personally, I'm really struggling about this topic because I started this project with just only one word, virtual events, and then I just dive into this project. So the most difficult part for me is that scoping the problem areas, because there are so many stakeholders and there are a lot of layers in virtual event journey. So I had to make a lot of decisions and then to move forward. But yeah, that's really hard to decide just to focus on one core problem instead of thinking of other peripheral areas.
Yeah. And I think, there's so much to be admired about picking a topic that is such a big pain point right now. So I could imagine that you're experiencing virtual events, and then you're also researching virtual events, and you're on Zoom calls, and it's a lot. So congratulations again, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Thank you. Thank you for your all support and thoughtful consideration.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
So it all started a year ago when I went back to India for spring break. Soon our classes moved online because of COVID, and I started taking remote classes with 9 hours time difference. Later, I also started working remotely for internship, which was a 12 hours time difference. I was not prepared for any of this. I was working 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. India time 7 days a week. Keeping up with 4 time zones was really hard. So how to attend a 6 p.m. evening class in New York, which is like 3:30 in the morning in India? There used to be how many projects that it was hard to find a suitable time to collaborate with the teams. It was a complete mess at the start. Even living in India, I was not able to meet my parents for weeks. I barely had time for myself or to even sleep. I had no time to understand or to share my feelings with anyone. I had so many questions, but no answers. I wish I knew someone who was aware about these remote working problems and could have helped me through this tough time. And with so many exhausting video calls, it made things even more hard to understand and to process. So there were a lot of problems as a remote worker and no work-life balance. And having no one to guide or to hear my story added another layer of problem. In one word, it was overwhelming. I almost had a mental breakdown. I needed help. So to understand the problem that I'm focusing on in one sentence, it is, how can we be more mindful about the boundaries for creating a better remote working environment? This problem really inspired me. So I started researching. I started looking into various social media platforms for answers. And I found out there are a lot of self-help and how to do videos about remote working. But they were very time consuming and distracting. I used to start watching something and I used to end up watching something totally different. At the end, I ended up losing a lot of time and it became even more frustrating. While researching, I also came across YouTube video search trends in the last 1 year. And it was intriguing to see how it has changed. There has been a 700% increase in the videos with the title at home, home office. And after some digging some more, I found out how social isolation is affecting mental well-being. Because there are 200% increase in daily uploads for self-care videos and 35% increase in videos with nature sound, which helps in soothing people down. So after this research, I realized people are looking for a community to learn and share. And also remote working is here for a while. As per the research, 17% of the US workforce were working from home even before COVID, which increased to 44% during COVID. And it is anticipated it will increase till 55% with at least people working 3 days a week at home. So what are remote workers looking for? They're looking for a platform, a curated work from home content, and a community to learn and share, and someone to guide through these tough problems. So that is why I came up with Campfire. Campfire is a video educational platform for remote workers to bring people together to share experiences and gain resources about remote working. So how is it different than other platforms? Campfire provides curated work from home content. It also provides an opportunity to get valuable suggestions and advice by remote experts that have years of experience, and a close-knit community where you can share and learn. But one question that I was asked often about this project was, what happens to Campfire once COVID is over? Will Campfire be still relevant? And the answer is yes. Because as per my learning, we are not the same. From hating the work from home environment, then struggling with it, and now finally adapting the lifestyle. Now we know so many advantages. Some of us love the flexibility, the others love working with people all around the world. So now let's jump into how the app works. So user first starts with exploring the home page. They can learn about remote work in between all the categories. They can also use filters on the top, which is social, family, me, and work. And They can learn about these category-wise, specific to these categories. These are all 1 to 2 minute videos where they can learn a lot about, and these all videos are curated by different experts who have been experiencing these problems. And then they can explore the Discover page where you can explore the remote working problems topic-wise. And then at the end, they can learn about different experts. So now, once the user is familiar with the app, they have learned about the experts, they have explored different categories of topic, they can now sign up for the live session to share with the experts their unique problems, to get personalized advices and suggestions. And then later, after the session, they can also share their thoughts about the session with the Campfire team so that we can improve their session experience. So now, once they have a session with the experts can also provide their personalized solution in the form of different blog articles that might help the users with their problems, which can be found under the resources section. So now, after the live session and the sharing the feedback with the Campfire team, users can also share their experiences with the Campfire community, where people have similar experiences or they are also learning this remote environment. So where they can share tips and tricks based on like their own successful experiences, or spread a word, some resources that might have worked for them, or ask any question which is related to the app, their peers. So now, to keep the users motivated, Campfire gives badges to the users. As they explore the app, they learn new remote skills. So the more the skills they learn, the more the videos they watch, the more badges they gain. And they come back and they learn more. So through Campfire, remote workers can improve the remote working environment by sharing and learning through others' experiences. So your story or somebody else's story might help someone, another's, and millions. So you are not alone. Campfire, let's share remote stories together. Thank you.
Shruti, congratulations on developing Campfire. One question I have for you. So I think we all know, especially in the pandemic, that video content has become so popular and everyone is looking for tutorials and things like that. Where are you imagining the content is coming from for Campfire? Are people creating it, or are you aggregating it from other sites?
So it's just like YouTube people create it because because it's all new content, and it's so diversified community. So people are actually creating it based on their own experiences, which can resonate with many others also.
Wow, so it's all new content specifically about working remotely.
Exactly, yeah. Because even people were working remotely prior to COVID, but this experience is altogether new.
Altogether new, yeah. And we've talked about this a lot, but I've seen your project kind of shift and change a lot throughout the 2 semesters, which happens with Thesis. What would you say was the most difficult part for you, the most difficult part of Thesis?
Just like you mentioned, it was like understanding the problems of the users, because they were all like so diversified communities. So like I was really scared that will I able to like accommodate all the problems that I'm understanding from the users and reflect on the content.
Yeah, and you did so many user interviews, right? Do you have any idea about how many people you talked to about your project?
Around 30ish.
Yeah.
35.
And what's next for Campfire? Are you going to keep working on it, or do you feel happy? Are you ready to move on from Thesis?
I'm really passionate about the whole topic, and it obviously doesn't end for me. Like at Thesis, I had an interview with one of the health experts. She was really excited, and she was also like doing some kind of similar program. And probably if I get enough support, I might continue with it. So I'm really looking forward to it.
That's fantastic. I'm excited to see where it goes, and congratulations again.
Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm Yiting Lu. 9 months ago, I decided to come back to China for an internship. And since then, I've been taking online courses in the United States with 13 hours time difference. I was unprepared for this. I have to work from 9 to 8 5 days a week. How to attend the class at 2 p.m. New York time, which is 3 a.m. for me. When could I get time to sleep? I am a 10-hour sleeping person. And interaction design is an area that requires a lot of teamwork. What would be the time for me to work with my team? It didn't go well in the beginning. One word to describe our feeling is overwhelmed. Because of the COVID-19, it may be the first time for most of us experiencing remote work. With team members separated in different cities and countries, one of the biggest challenges now is we are not being efficient in collaboration. There are big opportunities in remote work for workers, companies, and the future market. That's why I decided to go with my platform, Dream Team. I find myself tied to this concept as the design process goes. Because of my internship in a big internet company, we are a team of 88 designers in Beijing and Hangzhou. There are 5 team leaders, and each group has several small teams of about 5 to 8 people. We need to collaborate with each other, and most of the time, we also need to work with different roles, like PD and developer, mostly online. How challenging it is to collaborate while working remotely. For me, 40 hours a week, I work for my internship, and more than 20 hours a week I spend on school. The remote school experience makes me feel more exhausted than early in the first semester. We spent around 60 hours in the studio for the final. From my research, here are the top pain points of my target users. First is less connection and the lack of work efficiency. People care less about others behind the screen. That changes their way of talking and collaborating. Team B shared that more meetings were held for discussion, but as a result, the work didn't show its value. Second, difficulty to validate personal values in teamwork. Dada said, with limited communication, she doesn't know how the team leader measures her productivity. Third, many of them feel stressed. They need more mutual motivation. Dream Team is a digital platform that helps remote teams stay motivated. Let me show you how it helps. First, as a team tool, it shows a big picture with visualized data of the team and each member. It helps with individual validation and the user's mutual motivation. It also visualized your own project in 2 ways. Encourage you to be more productive. List view is to help you catch key actions, and Gantt chart is useful when you're planning and scheduling projects more related with time and order. The second is to help the team build connections with each other by offering online coffee space. Less connection also brings lack of efficiency. The meeting schedule is clearly shown every day, which better be arranged ahead. The value of a meeting is not about how long or how frequent, but how the result turned out to be. I watched the record of classes held at 2 p.m. New York time, and also the classes I have attended. usually for some uncertain points. But with 2 hours length, it is always hard to catch the key information. That inspired me to come up with 2 features, works like bookmark and insert notebook. So this is what recording looks like now. Be more valuable to each team member. They can be plugged into any online meeting apps. Let me show you how it works in Zoom. Number 1 is pop-up note. We simply click on pop-up note to open a small window on the top. It's just like Apple Notes would only be seen by yourself. The window can be dragged and rescaled to fit your need. Note records can be found and added in the dashboard. Number 2 is highlights during recording. To make record more valuable to you, simply click the highlight, works like bookmark, in the timeline. When you watch the record of meeting, click it will directly link you to that time. Switch to list highlight with categories and check the highlights in an organized way. Remote work would probably go in after the pandemic. With those tools, IC teams around the world can collaborate more effectively and more efficiently.
Yiting, congratulations on developing Dream Team. What an ambitious project. My question for you is, when designing Dream Team, you decided to make it its own platform rather than a plugin for, let's say, another big tech giant like Gmail or Dropbox or something like that. What made you want to develop your own platform?
Yeah, I was coming, my concepts really comes from my target users' pain points. I talked to all the different users, like potential users. They have like problems with lack of connection. So I made an online coffee space for them to commute with each other. And also they find that like the meeting is too long and they didn't get that value. So I made like a schedule ahead like for them to really tackle on that pain points. Also, I think other pain points that come from my like own experience, because I'm taking online courses and just to see there's opportunities here to see the records with like something like bookmark would be really easy to get to that like key information for me.
Got it. So it sounds like you were trying to make sort of an end-to-end experience that other apps didn't cover.
Yeah.
Cool. One thing I'd love to hear you talk about is, what was your biggest challenge in working on this thesis? And I know you're in a completely different time zone. What was that like?
Yeah, I think it changes like the audience I talk to. I like maybe if I'm in New York, I would talk to like people all over the world by like recruiting them from emails. But here currently I'm in China, so half of my audience is Chinese, and I think because of our cultural background is different, like the way they deal with their the way they deal with their remote work is different, and they also have different pain points. So that could be like a challenge, also like an opportunity for me.
Yeah. And obviously Dream Team is a huge project. This could be like a big tech company in its own platform. If you were to make this real, where do you think you would start? And are you looking to keep working on it, or are you happy with where it landed with Thesis?
I'm looking forward to push it ahead. And I talked to my colleagues. I'm having internship in Alibaba Cloud Design now. So I see opportunities here to make that plugins, like which I mentioned is like suitable for any online meeting apps. So in this case, I was trying to think about it maybe in like Alibaba's that online meeting apps. Yeah, so I'm trying to like connect with that like people take part participating in that design, so we can see if there's opportunities for me to have this concept, like really reach out to that audience.
Yeah, I mean, Alibaba is huge. That sounds like the perfect place to test it. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
I came to New York to pursue my master's program in 2019. When I was looking at skyscrapers on airplane, I was excited about moving to New York. But quickly I started feeling worried when I see the crowds of people in Newark Airport. There are over 8 million people within the city. But I didn't know anyone. I felt so lonely here and I missed my friends. The only way to meet new people in the city is to find communities. I was into meditation and made lots of friends through shared interests. So I wanted to start it by finding people who love meditation in New York. I joined many groups on Facebook. In each group, there were over 1,000 people. But the engagement was very low. For most of the posts, there were no response, no likes, and no comments. Most people didn't engage in the conversation in the group. When looking at some discussions, only a small group of people were engaged in the conversation. People join and leave the groups very often. It was tough for me to meet new people and make friends in these communities. But the community is important for each of us. People need to be in the community because it's a place where we can connect with others. It allows us to build a sense of belonging, get encouragement to reach our goals, and find comfort in difficult times. I want to find the reason why I can't engage in the community to meet people and make friends. After joining several communities and did research, I found out that the online community event is the key to retain people in these communities. But the online experiences are really bad. When people join the online community, there's always an awkwardness in the group and no one speaks. The whole process was boring and full of chaos. People didn't know what to do and what to say during the virtual meeting, and they all felt excluded from the community. I discovered that many community organizers are passionate about managing online communities on Facebook, Meetup, Eventbrite, and many other platforms. But the management process is hard. When managing a community, an organizer needs to schedule lots of events, prepare the content and activities, and tries hard to increase the interaction and facilitate the communication within the community members. It's a vast and complex project, and there were no effective tools for organizers. So how can we help organizers foster online community easily? Introducing HiTribe, a browser-based tool that includes a Chrome extension and a website, helps organizers facilitate online events with minimum effort. It provides an activity collection for organizers to collect various activities for community events. The organizer can add moderators to collaborate, schedule and organize tribe events, and follow up easily after each event. Let me walk you through the journey to see how I organize a Friday night virtual hangout for a meditation community. I set up the event for an hour. There are 3 stages: pre, during, and post-event. In each stage, I can assign different moderators to help me organizing the content and activities. Moderators can access the whole community template on HiTribe or manage part of this event. After assigning the task, we can prepare the content and find activities for different stages. If we want to have a travel game during the virtual meeting, we can go to the third-party platform, use HiTribe Chrome extension, categorize it as ice-breaking activity, and arrange a travel game for Friday night hangout event, and put it in during event stage. So after I successfully add it in HiTribe, I can check the travel game in tribe activity collection, ice-breaking category. When the virtual meeting starts on Friday night, after people greet each other, I find a travel game that we prepared for icebreaking in the during event stage. So I copied the link and shared it to Zoom chatting. People started to play the travel game together, chatting and laughing about the results, and share their meditation experience. After the event, I go to the post-event stage, send emails to community members by using HiTribe follow-up template. For people who attended the virtual meeting, who got interest but missed the virtual event, they will receive a customized email showing how the process went, people's meditation insights, the highlight moments on Zoom, and the recommendations for future events. In this way, HiTribe provides organizers a streamlined event managing service with the event scheduling, the activity collection, automatic following up, and moderator collaboration. It helps to reduce the effort on searching and managing scattered information and builds an integrated system for communities. With HiTribe, every community can be fostered to bloom. These blooming communities will provide everyone a place where they belong. Thank you.
Shuchen, congratulations on developing HiTribe.
Thank you.
You are welcome. One question I would love to hear you talk through is, in COVID, we were all thrown into virtual events. And I think people are familiar with Facebook events, Meetup, and all these other platforms. What really makes HiTribe different? Like, why do we need this new platform?
So on Facebook and Eventbrite and Meetup, those kind of platforms, it gathered people could get together within the community. But the problem is people can stay there, but they couldn't find a way to collaborate and communicate and interact with each other. So they don't have much channels to start with some activities or virtual events or some fun activities. So this makes the work really hard for the organizers or the moderators to hold the event. So on HiTribe, they have a channel to collaborate together, and they can prepare the things in advance so that they can organize the whole events very naturally. And then they got a chance to make the follow-up activities or email and send it to all the people who attend the virtual meeting. So in that way, people can better engage in the whole community, and then they can enjoy it within the events and then to go back. So this is the way HiTribe makes really difference.
Yeah, so it's really designed with the organizers in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of organizers, I'm not a community organizer, so I'm not as familiar, but is it pretty common for someone to organize more than one community at a time?
Yeah, it is. Before I start the topic, I actually interviewed a lot of people who are the organizers or moderators, and I found out that they all have different communities within different channels. Oh, so wow. It's really hard for them to handle on the huge task for different groups.
Yeah, that's interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about how you user tested and what types of people you talk to?
So actually, that's the hardest part for my thesis. Before the COVID-19, I have a chance to talk to people in real person, but after that, it's really hard for me to talk to them in person and observe them, how they organize the whole community, how they hold the virtual event. So that's really hard. So when I test it, I just give them the scenario, talk to them about the whole process, and then let them look at my screens to say whether it makes sense to them. So this is the way, finally, how I can test it.
Yeah. And then my last question for you is, what's next? Are you going to continue to work on HiTribe? Or are you ready to move on to something else?
So my next step, I think, is for developing more features for people to collaborate. So previously, I was thinking to add a HiTribe activity within HiTribe plugin. So this is not from the third-party platforms, but it develops within the HiTribe. so that people can contribute into this kind of activities, and then they can collaborate together. They can develop their own activities or games or any other like surveys or trivia, like something like that. So it makes people more engaging in the whole community. So this is a way that I'm thinking maybe I can expand this to a business model or something like more fun and interesting, and then develop it.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Well, congratulations again, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Thank you.
I pitched all the time. I feel like all these hours have been wasted. This is what Kate, a freelancing photographer, told me when I was trying to get information about some of the challenges freelancers face to get work. Hi, I'm Yuan Chen. Before SVA, I worked in design agencies for 3 years. We worked a lot with freelancers. Sometimes we would have them in for a few months. Other times, people just joined the team one day for one specific task, like video editing, drawing storyboards, photo shooting, or retouching photos. And the next day, they disappeared. I was wondering how they got stable income by working as freelancers, how they found all these jobs, how these creative talents got recruited. So I did some research. Mainly, there are 4 ways: personal network, finding job posts on platforms like LinkedIn, sending emails to recruiters, and promoting themselves on social media. And most of the time, freelancers got jobs through their personal networks. It is really difficult and time-consuming for them to go on platforms like LinkedIn, reaching out to recruiters, and looking for job postings. Social media is even harder because they need to spend lots of time building the whole brand around their work. Freelancers really need help to find their next clients. And the need is increasing. More and more people choose to be professional freelancers. According to Upwork's report, 59 million Americans performed freelance work in the past 12 months, representing 1/3 of the US workforce. And the pandemic pushed even more traditional workers to explore new, flexible career options. Around 2/3 of the US workforce are now considering freelancing in the future. And there are 1.1 billion people working as freelancers all around the world. People start to realize that the geographic boundary is losing importance. You might be able to work freelance in another country. So, how might we help creative freelancers to get more work? Freelancers need to get new projects from a wider range of people instead of just words from a friend. An easier way to expose their profiles and portfolios to the potential clients. They also need help to find other talented creative people to team up in a much easier way. Introducing Spotted, a mobile app that helps creative freelancers more easily get their work discovered in the real world. Spotted uses image recognition and detection technology to achieve the goal. Image recognition is a technology that is capable of identifying places, people, objects, and many other types of elements within an image and drawing conclusions from them by analyzing them. Spotted is not a product that will replace the platforms they currently use to find jobs. It will open one more channel for the freelancers to be seen by their potential clients. Spotted has 2 main user groups: freelancers themselves and recruiters who are looking for talents. Here is Rachel, a recruiter, and Michael, a designer. Let's see the story of how they meet. it only takes around 3 days from discovering a new opportunity to making an agreement. One day, Rachel walks on the street and takes a glance at a poster. This poster is awesome. I wonder who made this. So she takes out her phone, opens the app Spotted, clicks on the scan icon at the bottom of the screen, frames the poster in the viewfinder, and takes a photo. The app immediately recognizes the project, along with some related options showing below. She clicks on the project's thumbnail and reads through the project's detail page. Rachel checks all the creatives who worked on this project. Since she is looking for a visual designer for the project coming up, she clicks on Michael, a visual designer's profile image, to learn more about him. Rachel browses Michael's portfolio and his resume, thinks he's a good candidate for her company. Michael's profile shows that he will be available soon, so Rachel clicks on the Book Time button to check his availability. She selects the dates, fills more info about the project, and sends out a quote. The moment Rachel hits the Send button, Michael gets a notification from Spotted. He clicks on the notification bubble and finds Rachel's quote in his inbox. He reads through the quote and really likes the project, but he wants to change the time frame, so he proposes a new time in the message box, adds some notes, and hits send. Then Rachel and Michael have more rounds of discussion and moves on to the next step. This is how easily freelancers find a job opportunity by using Spotted. And Spotted can discover any work you see in real life. You can scan a poster, a magazine, an image on a website, and so on. So, with Spotted, creatives can spend more time working and less time pitching. Thank you.
A few months ago, my friend had a Zoom date. That was the first time I connected Zoom with dating. Now, surprisingly, the experience was terrible. There's nothing you can do besides asking awkward questions to the person you barely know. However, my friend is still dating on Zoom sometimes because he doesn't want to spend the next pandemic alone. Zoom dating has become a new normal for us in the last year, and people have grown to value meaningful intimate relationships as well. So, in this digital age, how do we find love? Usually, we start with dating apps. There are countless products that can help us match with people. Sometimes, there are too many choices. We may solve the problem of where to meet people, but what should we do next? Unfortunately, you are on your own. Most dating apps are only focused on matching people. The fact is, over 90% of conversations last less than 4 messages on dating apps, and they usually end with, "How are you?" Even if the message conversation went smoothly, they may not physically meet due to many reasons, even after the pandemic, such as distance, cost, safety. Zoom dating actually solves this problem perfectly. It can help you build deep connections faster without physically meeting and screen your date to ensure your safety. So, what are the current issues with Zoom dating? I found 3 key insights from over 20 user interviews. First, people do not want to spend too much time planning a date, including conversations, activities. They don't like dry and boring Zoom dating, but it's a lot of work prepare an interesting one, especially when they barely know each other. Also, people are nervous and insecure when dating. They are afraid of revealing too much of themselves, but hope to get to know other people better. Virtual dating make it worse. And the last one, we all wish to get a memorable experience, a crush during the date. But without music, environment, atmosphere, creating and recollecting special moments are extremely difficult. To solve those problems, I designed Adore, a video platform that facilitates virtual dates to create crush moments. Dating on Adore is effortless. You don't need to prepare anything before the date. It's progressive. Playing icebreaker games as you get to know each other will eventually relax you and let you know yourself. Be yourself. It's memorable. It simulates the diversity and the passion of offline dating. Make your date unique for you. Let me show you how it works. You can start a date through a 3-step onboarding quick quiz. Choose different answers based on your moods, personalities, and preference. And the system will create a date just for you. You enter the date with face and voice filters.
Hi, Jessica. I like your filter.
Thanks, Shuchen.
Not only does this feature ease the awkward enter moment, but it also stimulates curiosity, as well as uncovering the true self, will motivate the game later. The days start with 3 AR games generated by the system. The game requires them to cooperate, which not only increases the fun, but also gives them a chance to know each other. The disguise will be removed when they finish the game. To build deeper connections, the user will be asked to pick up their favorite item nearby and share the story behind it. This process will reveal what they really care about and give you an authentic date. Also, you can just enjoy the conversation anytime. Choose theme filter and the background music based on your moods. You can feel like dating in a bar or in Paris, wherever you want. When it's getting late, you want to leave, you can use the wrap-up feature. The system will suggest ending the date after 5 minutes. So you can leave anytime without having the struggle to figure out when is a good time to say goodbye. At the end, you can make a photo together. The app will replace your background and make it look like you are in the same physical space. Once the date is over, you can read it, and if both of you are satisfied, the system will pair you up. The app will create a mutual space for you and your Mr. or Miss Right. You can review all the special moments in the app and use the love board to express your feelings to each other. Share some fun stuff. It makes sure that 2 people who like each other will not end here. Adore. I say a word that we can connect intimately not only in person, but also virtually. Thank you.
Jessica, congratulations on developing Adore.
Thank you, Krystal.
You are welcome. One question that I think many people are wondering is, why face filters? Why was it so important to have those face filters in your app?
Yes, this question brings out a lot. And first of all, I think my target user is two people who barely know each other. I think the filter is a good tease to start a conversation and bring some interesting topics in the conversation and let them feel relaxed. And then they can be themselves. Also, on another side, I think people nowadays are used to pretend they are not who they are. And I wanted them feel this whole process during the game, and they can really be honest to each other.
That's really interesting. So it's almost like if you're going on a date for the first time, you are sort of dressed up or faking it to a degree. And by forcing users to opt into these filters, they take them off, and that the act of taking them off makes them more authentic. Is that the idea?
Exactly what I want to show and deliver to my users.
And that's such a poetic idea, because it's almost like we're wearing these invisible costumes.
Yeah.
And you're sort of
I just want to visualize it. So
you're visualizing that. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. One thing I'd love for you to talk through is, there are so many dating apps, right? There's Hinge, Bumble, Tinder, Match. There's a lot of dating apps, but your app is not really a dating app, right? It's what happens after the date. Can you talk through that?
Yes, I think most of the dating app nowadays is help people connecting to each other. It's more like a selecting app. Matching is the most important part. But my app is focused on what happened after match, how you build connections, how you really start to know each other. That's, I think, in an intimate relationship is more important, because actually even people said they have so many standards to find another one. However, you prefer to follow your heart, and this process is very important in an intimate relationship.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because we don't really think about what happens after your match.
Yeah.
Then you're on your own. Well, you know this more than me, but this has been such a crazy, unique year to be a student in grad school, doing everything virtually. What would you say was the most frustrating or most difficult part of the whole process?
Let me see.
I know there's probably a lot.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of things happened. I think the most challenging part is interview my target users, because I can only interview them online. So it's a good and bad part, because I'm building a video-based chatting app, which is kind of user testing already, use this format. However, people definitely feel more close and telling more when they are meeting you offline instead of online. So I think that part is the most challenging part.
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, congratulations again, and I can't wait to see what happens with the project next.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Frank. As a passionate piano player, playing the piano is my biggest hobby. Since the pandemic, I started playing the keyboard at home every day for relaxing. However, I felt very lonely playing the piano alone. I'm eager to play with other amateur musicians to have fun together, make friends, and gain more sense of achievement. There are over 45 million amateur musicians who can play a musical instrument like me in the United States. More than 80% of them expressed the interest or willingness to play the musical instrument together with other amateur musicians, but they have never actually experienced collaborating with others. This is because for amateur musicians, the musical ensemble process is very complicated and time-consuming. They find it hard to seek other amateur musicians with diverse musical instrument skills, and also hard to find the ensemble scores that match each player's musical instrument skills and skill level. In the pandemic and post-pandemic era, people begin trying to collaborate music online. We can see online music collaboration services become more and more popular. However, unfortunately, none of the current music collaboration solutions are specifically designed for helping amateur musicians facilitate their ensemble experience. They are either too professional and complex, designed for professional bands, or don't support sheet music at all, and only allow for very short impromptu entertainment collaborations. Therefore, in my thesis project, I want to design a music ensemble solution for amateur musicians to empower them to simply and quickly enjoy the fascinating music ensemble experience. Introducing Let's Gig. Let's Gig is a music collaboration platform that enables amateur musicians to start playing together anywhere, anytime. It frees amateur musicians from spending much time looking for suitable collaboration partners and suitable ensemble scores by providing a curated ensemble score library and pre-recorded integrated user-uploaded soundtrack video libraries. Using this asynchronous way, Let's Gig can quickly immerse amateur musicians in the engaging musical ensemble world. So how does it work? Meet John, an amateur piano player. He wants to play with other amateur musicians. He heard about Let's Gig website from his Facebook. With his piano keyboard in front of him, John went to letsgig.com. He went through the onboarding pages and selected his instrument, the piano, and selected the song he wanted to play with, and then he can directly enter the gig room and enjoy the ensemble experience. John can very easily try to play different ensemble roles, like the lead role or the accompanist role, and John can also try different instrument combinations. And John can try to collaborate with different players to get the perfect ensemble gig effect he wants. After John played with others and saved his gig video, he was happy to connect with his collaborators, and John also chose to share his soundtrack video to enable other users to use in their gig videos. Finally, John shared his gig video on his social media, and his family and friends cheered for him. Now, thanks to letsgig.com, John never played the piano lonely again. Through Let's Gig, he enjoyed the musical ensemble experience every day, and he has connected with many new amateur musician friends. And he got much sense of achievement by sharing his ensemble gig videos on his social media platforms. And in the future, Let's Gig platform will also have some advanced features to enable John to enjoy more paid sheet music options and enable John and his player friends to get customized ensemble scores from professional composers. So, as you can see, Let's Gig will be the first online music collaboration platform specifically designed for amateur musicians. It removes all complicated and time-consuming parts of the ensemble process to make the music ensemble experience extremely simple and fascinating.
Frank, congratulations on developing Let's Gig.
Yeah, thank you.
I know, yay, you're done. One question I have for you is, you know, for your thesis project, you could have picked any topic, but you chose to focus on music. What inspired you to focus on that?
Yeah, so because I am an amateur piano player, so I'm very passionate about playing the piano, and I feel very lonely to play alone. So through my thesis project, I would like to explore how I can collaborate with other amateur musicians like more efficiently. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you got to solve your own problem in a way.
Yes. Start from myself experience.
Yeah. Well, let's say if Let's Gig was real and you are an amateur piano player trying to find bandmates, would you have to pay for Let's Gig? What would the business model look like?
Yes. So for the basic features in the Let's Gig, they are all free. So users don't need to pay for enjoying the basic service. But if they want to enjoy more sheet music library, or they want to collaborate with some like real artists, they need to pay for a little extra fee, like a membership.
Yeah, that makes sense. And by real artists, do you mean like a I'm trying to think of like a favorite, like you could play with
like singers, I mean
like actual celebrities and things like that.
Yes.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. What would you say was the hardest part about developing Thesis? Did you feel stuck at any point in the process?
Yes, I think the hardest part is how to bring. So what is the collaboration ways? I explored both a synchronous way of collaboration and the asynchronous collaboration method, and they both have pros and cons, and I also asked some my developer friends and also some of my musician friends to see which collaboration model is effective and like technical feasible.
Yeah. And so you ended up going with an asynchronous model.
Yes.
Do you think that your users picked that just because of COVID, or do you think asynchronous will be popular even when COVID is over?
Yes, I think a synchronous way of collaboration will also be popular after the coronavirus, because a synchronous way is the most efficient way, because collaborators, they don't need to get together online at the same time, so they can just record their videos and their part of videos, and then the technology can put them together. So
you don't have
and I know a lot of amateur musicians, they are busy and they don't have time to really schedule a time together online to play together.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Well, congratulations again, Frank, and I'm excited to see where Let's Gig goes.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Rafa. Since 2004, I've been part of the music underground scene in Brazil. I am a member of a band called Camp No Trio. In 2014, we did a tour. In 11 days, we played 9 concerts in 8 different cities across 4 states. We played with international bands for an audience of 800 people. But we also played outdoors in an occupied building, in a tattoo shop, and we even played once for an audience of 5. We drove 2,000 miles across 5 states. We slept in weird places and we shared a motel bed once. And sometimes we slept on the road. And as you would expect, after this adventure we made a profit. Well, $3 to share between the 3 of us. and this was our most lucrative tour ever. To be honest, only on 2 occasions in 13 years, we didn't lose money while playing or recording. And this is the reality for most underground musicians. So why do we do things like this tour? And why do we make music? Underground musicians do it for love, but they stop because of money. There are almost no chances to compete and make a living in the music industry. These artists don't have access to professional music recording and production. And besides that, it is not easy to produce promotional materials, and it's really complicated to pass through the bureaucracy to have their music on streaming platforms. When artists finally get their tracks on these platforms, they need them to be streamed 250 times to earn $1 single. This is a well-known problem that all big streaming services are dedicating efforts to solve or at least mitigate, but they are still far away from resolving. Everybody deserves the chance to express themselves and make a living through music. Where you live, your social status, race, gender, and disabilities should not define your chances to showcase your art. So, how can we help underground musicians to promote themselves and thrive? Since last year, I've been talking to underground artists, independent labels, people from streaming platforms, and music lovers. The result of these conversations is MPUP, a platform for socially engaged music lovers that aims to boost the volume of the unheard and build a better music community. By helping independent underground musicians that have no access to professional services and connecting them to music lovers who participate actively in the underground scene and have a strong sense of community, MPUB creates a healthier music scene. To explain how it works, I would like to introduce you to Lorne. Lorne is a skate rock band from Brooklyn. They have a few original songs, and after playing local gigs, they got the attention of the people in the audience. After the good response of their local scene, they started looking for studios to record their first EP. That's when they realized that professional recordings are really expensive. So they decided to use all their savings to pay for a home recording. The result was not great. And to make things worse, they had no idea how to promote their single and gave up trying after a few Instagram stories and tweets with low engagement. Luckily, MPUB curatorial team found them. After a few meetings with MPUB's music producers and creative team, they decided the band's direction regarding sonority, visuals, and copywriting. MPUB records Lorne's songs in a professional studio and takes professional photos of the band. After that, MPUB takes care of everything. It builds the band page inside the platform, tells a story about the band and its members in details, makes social media assets available to the band and merch available for purchase on demand. Finally, MPUB makes Lorne's songs available not only inside the MPUB's platform, but in all music streaming services. After all that, Lorne also receives a share of MPUB's monthly subscriptions that is divided equally between all artists on the platform. These subscriptions are paid by people like Carlos, a music lover that believes that a better music scene is possible. By paying a small monthly fee, Carlos becomes an MPUB member. Besides helping keep the platform running, Carlos' subscription helps MPUB to produce new talents and to remunerate artists in the platform. It also helps social projects related to music in distressed communities. By being a member, Carlos has access to all bands in MPUB's catalog. Every week, a new artist produced by MPUB is added to the platform. Carlos can read about them, hear their songs, see their lyrics, and know the stories and curiosities behind them. Carlos can share artists' page, their songs, and albums. By doing that, Carlos helps in the artist's promotion, and he also earns points that he can later convert into discounts in merch or tickets for concerts. Through the platform, Carlos discovered Lorne. He really liked the band and decided to support them. He chooses a monthly amount that he will donate directly to the band every month. That gives him access to the band backstage, a place where he can receive the band's news, have access to exclusive products and discounts on tickets to concerts, and connect with other supporters and with the band. Carlos also can see the number of projects, albums, and tracks produced with his monthly contribution. This keeps him motivated to continue helping building a healthier underground scene and helping artists have more chances to thrive. AMPUP, connecting music lovers and underground musicians to create a better music community.
Rafa, congratulations on developing AMPUP.
Thank you.
One question I want to ask you, and I think it's something that makes your platform really unique from Spotify and other platforms out there, is the business model that you presented. Can you talk us through that business model again and why you decided to make it that way?
Sure. So in the beginning, it was kind of hard to differentiate from existing platforms. And one thing that I realized is that the best way of helping artists and musicians would be helping them to produce their songs and get inside these platforms. So I realized that part of the subscriptions should be to produce artists and part for social projects in distressed communities. And part of it, of course, is for keep the platform running, but also equally share between all the artists. Because I think it's a fair way of sharing these subscriptions.
Yeah, and one additional question that you just said that made me think of it is you're actually helping artists record their music, take photographs, and like get professional and ready to be presented to your audience. Do you think that would be difficult? Because I imagine if your company was a real thing, you would have an office somewhere. How would you actually coordinate doing all of that when artists are all over the world?
Yeah, we would probably need a network of people representing AMPUP and seeing where there are talents that we can work with. The good thing about it is that the underground is usually really connected. So people just know about the bands and what's going on. So that's one thing that can make it easier. And also, it's kind of easy to record and make photographies everywhere. You just need to rent a studio, a photo studio. So even though I think it's not the easiest thing to do, I think it's something that we can work on.
Yeah. And obviously this has been a very unprecedented, crazy year. Our entire thesis class was 100% virtual. What would you say was the most difficult part of developing AMPUP?
To be honest, in the beginning, I was super focused on making a streaming platform and connect artists to audience. But every good idea that I had, it took 2 weeks or 2 weeks to see a big streaming platform making the same thing. It's not easy to...
It was in the news, yeah.
Yes, it's not easy to compete with Spotify, Tidal, SoundCloud. So in the beginning, that was the biggest challenge for me. I only solved that when I realized that I should work in producing new artists instead of making a new streaming platform.
Yeah, different angle. And then my last question for you is purely just for fun. In the beginning of your presentation, you shared that you went on tour for a few months and you only made $1 was your share. Do you remember how you spent that dollar?
To be honest, that dollar was used to cover some of my spends on the tour, because like we are not computing. We are paying the food with our money, not with the money from the tour. So like instead of eating at home as I used to do, I was eating like in restaurants and those things. So I ended up wasting more money than usual. So I used that to cover these expenses.
So it might have bought you like a part of a coffee or something like that along the way.
Yes.
Well, Rafa, congratulations again, and I can't wait to see where it goes.
Thank you.
Poonam, why is it always so hard for you to say no? You know it doesn't help you, and yet you do it every single time. How stupid could you possibly be? This is the voice of my inner critic. Like me, most of us have an inner critic, a nagging voice which tells us negative things about ourselves every single day. It demeans us and makes us believe we're just not good enough. Interestingly, while you might strongly identify with your inner critic, it is not a core part of you. It's actually an external voice or situation you've internalized over the years. And not to say our inner critic doesn't mean well, it just doesn't know how to do it in a helpful way. People may think they know just enough, but fuzzy ideas from psychology like the inner critic are poorly understood. People don't know how to recognize their inner critic, nor do they realize how it affects them or their relationships. What people don't realize is that when we go just a little deeper to get to know and manage our inner critic, it actually impacts our ability to manage our own emotions and recognize those emotions in other people and navigate between the two states. It impacts our emotional intelligence. And latest studies show that emotional intelligence is responsible for 58% of our professional success. Studies also suggest that the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more likely you are to earn money and be a top performer. And while it's not easy to connect the dots at first, it's important to realize that when you understand and manage your inner critic better, you have higher self-worth and emotional intelligence. You're better able to regulate your emotions, which makes you more collaborative and empathetic. You work better with others, you're more productive, and you're a better employee. So what can we do about this? How can we help working professionals understand their inner critic? Taking a look at the market, I found tons of tools out there tackling many different things, but not one addressed the inner critic directly. That's why I created Nudge the Judge. Nudge the Judge takes you on a reflective adventure to get to know your inner critic and how to befriend it with kindness through playful interactions. This interactive experience helps you understand two key inner voices. The first one is your fault-finding voice, which weighs you down, your inner judge or your inner critic. This tends to be louder for many of us. And the other one, your inner guide, your compassionate voice that lifts you up. This tends to be softer. To understand these voices, Nudge the Judge breaks down this complex idea into 3 simple phases rooted in psychology. You start by building self-awareness by recognizing your inner critic and trying to understand how it makes you feel. Then, you reframe the way you see your inner critic by separating it from you through a character. And finally, you learn how to be kind to yourself by building your inner guide. Since we're not used to this way of thinking, this may sound a little abstract and hard to understand. Let me show you how this experience actually works.
Upon landing on the website, your curiosity is aroused with little information and you're nudged to explore the page to get a feel of the experience. To build self-awareness, you begin by catching what your inner critic says. For example, what do you do too much of? Maybe you think you procrastinate too much, or you worry too much about what others think of you. You recognize the voice of your inner critic. Once you catch what it says, Nudge the Judge helps you articulate how you feel by expanding your emotional vocabulary. As part of our next phase of externalization, you go on a fun ride to create a character of your inner critic to see it as separate from you. Maybe your inner critic feels a little fuzzy or like dense. The experience generates a unique character based on how it resonates with you, and it also lets you personalize it so it feels like a part of you. Externalizing the inner critic in the form of a character makes it really easy for us to reframe the way we think about our self-critical thoughts. And depending on what words you relate to, your inner critic is unique and always looks different. And lastly, as part of the compassion phase, you're introduced to your kind inner voice. Let's turn it around for a second and imagine your best friend came to you with the same worry, that they spend too much time worrying about what others think of them. What would you say to them? This is the voice of your inner guide. By creating a character for your inner guide, Nudge the Judge helps you easily distinguish between the two voices. Having discovered this kindness that already exists within you, you are now able to change the way you approach all those self-critical thoughts. And lastly, you explore the world of anonymous inner critics and to see how they look and what they say. You'll be surprised to know how similar your inner critic sounds like to someone else's. It's a great feeling knowing you're not alone and realizing how all of us have shared struggles. And through the whole experience, you'll have a safe space to reflect, friendly guidance at every step, and positive reinforcement so you always feel at ease. And you'll also have a bunch of insightful facts to walk away with a new perspective about yourself. And your journey doesn't end there. You can sign up for the next module in the Inner Critic series to evolve your inner guide, take a team workshop, or read our easy-to-understand psychology-based articles. And so, if you find yourself getting caught up in those horrible self-critical thoughts again, it doesn't have to be that way. Through this enlightening and educational experience, you can begin to identify and nudge your inner judge and become more compassionate towards yourself. Thank you.
Poonam, congratulations on developing Nudge the Judge.
Thank you.
One quick question I have for you is about your target audience. So, everyone has an inner critic, but I think you said you're focused on working professionals. Can you talk a little bit about why you chose that audience?
Sure, that's a really good question because that's something that I had to think about a lot. So, like you said, everyone does have an inner critic. So then how do I decide what my audience should be? So I went down a more strategic path and I said, okay, if I have to really build something and sell it and actually earn money out of it, then who can I go to? And so I thought about working professionals. And the reason why I chose working professionals is that I thought that I could pitch this to workplace organizations.
Right.
And since people won't be anyway motivated to do this inner critic exercise because they don't know what's important, that way workplace organizations can get working professionals to do this exercise. So I kind of hit two goals in one go.
Yeah.
And because workplace organizations have been focusing so much on emotional intelligence, this would be a relatively easier pitch than any other sort of audience.
So it sort of becomes folded into their mandatory workplace trainings.
Yes, just like you take a sexual harassment sort of module. That way you would take something to get to know your inner critic. And once people do it, then they'll realize it's actually interesting, and they'll probably go on in their journey with that.
Yeah. My next question is more about how you arrived at this topic in general. Like your inner critic and like inner voices is really specific. How did you decide to focus on that as your whole thesis?
Yeah, it's been such a journey. So one thing that I've been really passionate about when I started thinking about my thesis is bringing fuzzy ideas that are tucked away in like psychology articles, or you only get to learn if you actually go to a psychologist. I wanted to actually make that more accessible to people who don't know much about it. And the inner critic is something that I definitely have. It's something that I learned through all the psychology material, and I realized how much of a role it plays in the way we communicate with other people and in the way we treat ourselves. And so I thought it was a good place to start. It's a word that's familiar. People have some inkling about what it means. So I thought, okay, let me go full throttle and just really explore the world of inner critics and bring that in front of everyone.
Yeah. My next question is more of a fun one. I think your illustration style and the way you've captured these different versions of inner critics is so fascinating. I think especially the one that struck me was heavy yet hollow, and it was like perfectly captured that. What was your process like developing these little characters?
Yeah, well, the way actually this product would work if it was out there is that you would click on some words that instantly remind you of your critics. So instead of thinking too hard about how it makes you feel, because sometimes, it's hard to articulate that, I just threw out a bunch of words that had qualities that could also be visual. So like spiky, or like fuzzy, or like hollow.
Yeah.
And so the way it would actually work is that there would be an AI that would actually draw these characters, and it would use visual cues from these different words, and it would try to put together something. So I pretended that I was the AI. I actually did a lot of research, and I took inspiration from the world of Pixar and how it develops their characters. So I said, okay, what can this character be? It shouldn't be something very close to how a human looks, but not something that's recognizable either. I wanted it to be abstract and yet to have those visual cues. And so it was a really interesting experience to put together those characters and in a way that it wasn't too serious and people could relate to it.
Yeah, they're absolutely beautiful. And congratulations again, and I can't wait to see where Nudge the Judge goes.
Thank you.
This is me as a 17-year-old in high school. I don't remember which high school event this photo was taken at. All I can remember is how I felt. I remember the anxiety I felt knowing it would be an event where there'd be a lot of photos taken, and feeling insecure about the way I looked. Behind that facade of a smile is a teenage girl who described herself as ugly, fat, gross. And although I no longer describe myself with those harsh and harmful words, I still have these moments when I catch myself in the mirror and I feel like I'm right back in high school. From the range of women and teens I've talked to, I heard similar stories. One teen has a hard time accepting the natural changes her body went through during puberty. And for another, they're insecure about their legs and make a large effort to hide them. The body image that was shaped during middle or high school doesn't go away after those teenage years, but it can stay with us throughout adulthood. And it can lead to an unhealthy, lifelong relationship with food or exercise. And we aren't the only ones. 80% of women feel the same way. 80% of women are unhappy with their bodies. That's a lot of people. And we're constantly surrounded by triggers that affect how we think about our bodies. And from these triggers, we rabbit hole in our negative thoughts, and it can be a tough headspace to get out of. Body image, or our perception of our appearance, is important in our self-esteem. And low self-esteem can lead to different mental health issues like unhealthy eating or eating disorders, social anxiety, and depression, to name a few. And these can manifest in different ways and hold us back from living fuller lives. Now, dealing with body image is a lifelong battle. So it's not realistic to accept and love our bodies all the time. We need a healthy way to confront and pull ourselves out of a negative thinking spiral. So what it comes down to is resilience. And this led me to investigate different cognitive behavioral practices that can help women shape a resilient and more positive body image, and inspired me to create Aurora. Aurora is an app that helps women build a resilient body image through guided reflections. So how it works is, after downloading and onboarding, we go ahead and open the app and find the right guided reflection, go through the reflection with the help of an AI guide, and then after, we take an assessment on how we feel. These basic steps are repeated, and it takes practice, because practice is what paves the road to building resiliency. Now, I'll walk through a typical experience. We spend hours on our phone, keeping up with our friends and family on social media. But when we continue scrolling through our feed, we can't help but start to compare ourselves to others. And we start to feel low. So we open Aurora. And on the homepage, there's a few different recommended options. But we go ahead and select mirror exercise, where we'll learn a little bit more about what it is. We'll choose a guide, a length of time, and this particular session requires a private space and a mirror. So let's first find our space. And once we do, we'll go ahead and start the session. Our guide, Maggie, will provide a prompt out loud from our phone. And as you can see, mirrors can be challenging, especially with people who have poor body image. It can be hard to look at our reflections, and criticisms we have about our bodies and ourselves can creep up. So when those do, Maggie will challenge those negative thoughts and reframe them, like asking if our friends would agree. And in challenging those thinking patterns, Maggie will help us develop awareness on the harmful rhetoric we use to put our body image and ourselves down. And here in the third section, we take a moment to reset, and Maggie will pivot and start with a smaller step. This helps us to disarm our thoughts and practice more self-compassion. The conversation can also be followed along on the phone. So once we're done, we are congratulated, and then we go ahead and take an assessment on how we feel by adjusting the sliders on each of the moods. This allows us to keep a log of our feelings. And the moods that are logged can be found in Insights. Here we can assess where we are relative to last week. The insights are less achievement-based and more focused on better understanding our emotions and ourselves. So if there's one rough week, it's okay, because it's truly about building the capacity to keep moving through negative things. Because these moods and emotions won't always be or feel positive 100% of the time. So with practice, the guided reflections rooted in cognitive behavioral psychology helps us to recognize, challenge, and ease harmful body talk and thoughts we have, and lead us to more self-compassion. And in doing so, we can build a resilient body image. Aurora is just one way in helping us take that one step closer to putting the value of who we are less on how we look and more on how we feel, allowing us to live fuller lives. Thank you.
Liz, congratulations on developing Aurora.
Thank you.
One question that came to mind while you were giving your presentation is that the physical mirror was such a big part of your experience. Did you think about creating a smart mirror?
I did think about creating a smart mirror, but the reason why I ended up going digital was because of like scalability and making sure that everyone or like most people have access to it. It's easier to download an app than it is to like go out and buy a smart mirror, and also that drives up the cost of the product itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I imagine, I think, would you mind clarifying to who your target demographic is? I think it was teenagers, right?
Yes. So when I was designing like Aurora, I was definitely keeping teens in mind, but I do see it where like any woman of like any age can use it. But yeah, I definitely had like the teenage aspect in there.
Yeah. And why is that? Why that focus on teenagers?
Because as I was talking to women of all ages during those teenage years, it was like really critical, and that's when they started really thinking about their body image a lot more. So it was a critical time in their life, and so I wanted to give them like the skills to actually like start like reframing the way they think about themselves and like the way they see themselves.
Yeah, and that actually brings up another question, which is so much of this class is doing user interviews and talking to people. I could imagine that that might have been a little awkward for you. What was that experience like, talking to people about their body image?
Yeah, so as I was recruiting people, I definitely prefaced it. So it wasn't like they were coming in and just like all of a sudden getting super vulnerable. So I definitely kind of prefaced it as I was recruiting people. And then also during the actual interviews or themselves, it was very much like easing into it. So it wasn't like the first thing we talked about, but it was just like talk, kind of like, I don't know, easing into the conversation.
Yeah. And obviously this has been such an unprecedented year as a student working on your thesis. What would you say was the most difficult thing that you had to overcome during the process?
So I am an extremely collaborative designer, and I guess I'm an extrovert, so I like need other people's like energy, and so it was really tough having to like go through the process somewhat alone in like a physical space, I guess, alone and through the screen. So I had to adjust like how to ask and like for input and feedback and how to collaborate with people when we can't be like in a room together.
Yeah, definitely. Well, congratulations again on what you've developed. It's a huge accomplishment.
Thanks.
One third of our life is spent at work. It really matters a lot to us. However, most people are not happy with their current job. Hi, I'm Jinpei. My thesis focuses on career exploration. You may wonder why I chose this topic. That's because only 15% of the world's 1 billion full-time workers are engaged at work, according to a survey by Gallup. And I was just like most people who did not find fulfillment in career. Before studying interaction design, I was an industrial designer. I really enjoyed learning industrial design. During the school years, I designed lots of cool concepts. For example, this foldable guitar is one of my favorite projects. It lets you play guitar anytime and any place. I dreamed about turning ideas like this into real products in my future career. However, when I started to work as an industrial designer in the industry, it felt very different. Unlike in school, I could put my passion on creative ideas. In real life, I spend most of my time dealing with small details for the sake of manufacturing instead, which I'm not interested at all. The job opportunities of industrial design at the time were also very limited, and I felt frustrated and confused. Especially after worked for almost 2 years, none of the products I designed went onto the market at the time. I really worried about my future and wondered if I should explore other new careers. However, I don't even know where to start. It was overwhelmed even just to think about changing careers, especially when I don't have any advisors or mentors for help. But I was quite lucky. I had some colleagues who are so-called digital designers. I was really interested in what they worked on and talked with them a lot. and was first introduced to the concept of interaction design at the time. I got very interested in interaction design and spent tons of my time researching these new careers online, and eventually made the choice to apply for interaction design graduated program. And I made it. I got into the IXD program and became an interaction designer. At the time, I found lots of my friends also wanted to change careers and had the same struggling. And that's why I want to tackle this problem. I want to find out how to empower people to explore other career possibilities. After talking with many friends who share the same problem with me, I found some common pain points in career exploration. First, they're not sure about what they're really passionate about and feel hard to explore other potential paths. They're also struggling emotionally with the uncertainty of career major changes and don't know where to start. They found it is also very hard to connect and get real insight from people who worked in their target field. However, solving these problems can be really challenging. While I was researching on the possible solution, I ran into a simple yet profound Japanese concept, ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese word that means the purpose of being. In another word, it is what gets you up every morning and keeps you going. According to researchers, it is also one of the most important reasons why so many Japanese people in Okinawa live a longer and happier life. It provides 4 different simple parameters for people to assess their careers and life. The whole concept is based on 4 basic questions: what do you love, what the world needs, what you are good at, and what you can be paid for. It can lead you to find your passion, mission, profession, and vocation, and eventually your ultimate ikigai, your purpose of life. And I was inspired by this concept to design an app. Introducing Iki. Iki is an app that is inspired by the concept of ikigai. It helps young professionals and students to find careers that make them feel fulfilled. Here's an overview of how Iki works. First, it lets users take assessment to reflect on your careers and life. It helps users explore career matches. It provides an easier way to shadow professionals. Now, I will walk you through the details. On the onboarding page, you can sign in by email or LinkedIn account. You can also review some career stories about people who successfully changed careers to have more confidence in the journey of career exploration. When successfully signed in, you can start to work on assessment that's based on psychological researchers. You can choose to start with different tests based on your availability of time and preference. Now, working on the assessment in Iki is also very easy. You can simply press the giving answers under the questions. Iki provided qualitative tests and open-ended questions to achieve more accurate results with an understanding of your deep motivation. After you finish all the assessment, the AI will provide career matches based on your Ikigai test result. You can quickly review different career recommendations and press to learn more about the career you are interested in. On this page, you can have a better understanding of why this career suits you well based on your Ikigai test. If you are really interested in this career, you can also add it to the job list, where you save all the careers that intrigued you. If you want to know what it's like to work in this career, you can also use the feature A Day in the Life, which provided curated videos based on real professionals' daily life. So you can have a more holistic understanding of this career. You can also ask specific questions that you really care about while watching videos. So they can answer these questions based on your specific concerns. Making a career change can be really hard, even when you already have learned a lot from shadowing professionals. So you may also need other knowledge and criteria to help you make the final decision. But don't worry, you can always go back to the job list, where you could review potential careers you saved, compare them with each other, or just learn more about it. You can also join a group discussion or find career coaches in a specific career that you are interested in. And that's how Iki can help you. It helps you reflect, explore, and make the decision throughout your journey of career changes. Working on Iki makes me believe that we always have the chance to change our career directions, just like Led Zeppelin sings in their famous song. Yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you are on. Hope everyone find their ikigai and have a fulfilled career. Thank you.
Jinpei, congratulations on developing Iki.
Thank you, Krystal.
You're welcome. It looks like Iki is an app that could help anyone change careers, but can you clarify who is your target audience?
Yeah, I think my current target audience is the people who are either young professionals or college students, and especially people who want to move to the creative industry. Because I found like lots of people around me who are not studying like design or art I get very interested in this area, and they always ask me questions on this, and and that's one of the reasons, one of the motivations that I try to design this app. Yeah, I think I will start focusing on the people who are younger and are looking forward to moving to the creative industry.
Yeah, that makes sense. And from your presentation, you talked about how you've already changed careers once. Mm-hmm. Do you see yourself changing careers again in the future?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm really open to anything, any new opportunities. Because maybe one day, you don't need UX design, and like all the UX design could be replaced by artificial intelligence. Maybe I will design something else, maybe even go back again to the industrial design field.
Yeah, go back to physical design. That's funny. Mm-hmm. This has obviously been such a unique experience being remote in your last year of grad school. Mm-hmm. What would you say was the hardest moment for you developing your thesis?
Yes, I think it's definitely the hard part. For me, is like unlike being in person in the school, you always have a lot of peer classmates which you can discuss a lot of like details in the design with them. I found that is the hard part. I like only discussion on design I have with it is with my advisors, but I think it will be much more helpful if I can directly talk with other classmates. Just in person in the studio.
Yeah, there's so much conversation that happens that's unplanned, right? Yeah. Well, congratulations again, and I'm excited to see where it goes next.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you again.
We are living in a difficult time, as the COVID-19 has changed many aspects of our life. We all deal with the crisis differently, and one way to get through is to make the best of it. Using this time to achieve things we didn't have time for, and be productive because it makes us feel worthwhile and valuable. We could take online courses and learn something new. We could work out regularly and get fit. We could focus on work with no need to commute. However, when the anxiety of isolation sets in, you start to lose momentum. Eventually, you feel frustrated for not achieving your goals, then the question comes to your mind: how to be more productive? It is no secret that Elon Musk has a crazy schedule, which he works 80 to 100 hours a week, and still manages to take time out for his family. To keep his schedule organized and effective, Musk uses a method called time boxing or time blocking. Basically, he plans his day out in 5-minute increments and has everything pre-planned in advance. But why choose time boxing? First, it forces you to get started with less time thinking about what to do next. Secondly, you get more focused as you work on one thing at a time. Also, it tracks your time to help you improve your productivity. Introducing Plendo. It is a time management tool based on time boxing that helps people achieve more in life by focusing on one task at a time. Unlike traditional to-do apps, Plendo allows you to create daily routines. For example, you can make a workday routine starting at 9 a.m., make it repeat on weekdays. Then, you can add a task of daily stand-ups, set its priority, and time box. Now, you have created your first routine. Writing the same to-do list on paper planner every day can be annoying. With Plendo, you only need to do it once. Now you may say, but I can use calendar apps. I'm sure you can, but when random interruptions jump in, your calendar will be a mess, and you need to manually adjust it to avoid overlaps. But with Plendo, you can simply drag and drop the new task anywhere. It automatically adjusts a whole timeline for you. Sometimes, you may struggle to estimate how long a task is going to take. You can make subtasks that are easier to think about. After reviewing your daily plan, you can start to focus. Plendo provides a choice of Focus Plus mode. Once enabled, you can only answer calls and take photos with your phone. While you are focusing, you can still make changes to your plan. Plendo tracks your time effectively. If you finished early, you could tap on Done and go to the next task. If you went over time, you could add more time to extend its deadline as you need. And if the task was cancelled, you could tap on Skip. At the end of the day, Plendo creates a daily report to help you understand your time spent and productivity. With the smart insights, Plendo makes it easy to improve. For example, you could shorten the time of tasks that are often done early and pay more attention to the ones that take longer. We are living in a world with too many unknowns that we cannot control. But the one thing we could do is focusing on our daily life. Find your priorities, manage your time, achieve more in your life. Try Plendo today.
Yo, congratulations on your project.
Thank you.
One question that I want you to talk through is, why did you create this productivity tool in the first place? I know you talked about Elon Musk a little bit in your presentation, but what really got you to pick this as your topic?
Because I wanted to become a motion designer. However, I'm in like interaction design department. So I have to spend a lot more time like after class, like on my own to be able to learn this skill by myself.
Yeah.
That's why I got into the word of how to be more productive, how to get more things down, like with a limited amount of time. So I tried that time boxing approach by myself, and which worked perfectly for me. And now I got an offer from one of the best motion design company in the world that just made my dream come true. So I think it's definitely something that's useful, effective for people who want to improve their productivity or they have to do something in their life they want to achieve. that's why I wanted to build this tool for people like that. Yeah.
So time boxing can make your dreams come true.
Yeah, basically.
And then I know you've mentioned this in class, but how many times have you gone through time boxing? Like you've done it for how many years now?
So I started doing like everyday exercise since 2020, yeah, year of 2020. And I've been doing that for like roughly like half year, like every day, no stop. But basically I just block out every night, like 2 to 3 hours to do this exercise. Then later, I think it was during the summer break, you know, when there's no class, we got a lot of free time, but it was hard at first to manage those time because there was no goals, no classes, so we have to manage those time by ourselves. Yeah, so that I guess like roughly a year or less than a year to do
wow. That. And have you missed a day? Do you never missed a day so far?
Well, during the time I really like spend a lot of effort to keep myself every day. I didn't miss a day, even though like one night was I spilled my noodle soup on my keyboard. The keyboard was broken, and I had to use my mouse to be able to like do the design with mouse only that 2 nights, and then just I got a new keyboard. But I didn't stop even though I lost my keyboard.
Wow, that's really impressive. What, in terms of this whole thesis process, so you've been working on this project for many, many months virtually during a pandemic, what do you think was the hardest part about getting to your final design?
I think one of the hardest thing must be interviewing, like in the researching part to interview people, you know, since it's like a pandemic, sometimes it's hard to get the thing we want, where we'd like to see with this remote environment. That's one thing. And the second part, I guess, is just in the execution, you know, like I'm kind of like a perfectionist. I want something to be, I want all things to be all pretty, like 100%. Yeah. But since we have the limited amount of time, we have to say, oh, that's it. Yeah. I remember a quote. It's like our films don't get finished; they only get to released. That's just the mindset I've been keeping. So it's just it's whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Congratulations again, and I'm excited to see where the project goes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
COVID has caused many changes to our daily lives. One big change is remote learning, which is not giving children enough opportunities to practice writing. So, I've developed a solution that can both supplement pandemic learning and continue to provide fun writing experiences post-COVID. Hi, my name is Samantha Brooks. I'm a mother of 2 boys, Benjamin, age 9, a 4th grader, and Jacob, age 6, a 1st grader. In March 2020, all New York City schools halted in-person education due to COVID, and parents, like myself, became responsible for managing remote learning. With this front row seat to their daily lessons, I noticed something troubling. My kids were not getting as much writing practice as they would have in school. And I felt that it was important to figure out how to add that back into their routine. I found inspiration in a bedtime ritual. Often before going to sleep, my kids and I play a game in which each person tells part of a story and then passes it on for the next person to continue. I had a hunch that I could build upon those spoken stories to create writing opportunities. So, I tested the idea of combining group storytelling with writing activities on my kids and groups of other families with children in elementary school. It was a big success. I struck upon something worthwhile. What I learned from testing and feedback sessions was that my solution must be physical and tactile, would need to engage kids and get them writing. And above all, it had to be fun. Tales to Tell is a cooperative card game that teaches through play. It shows kids just how fun it can be to write their own stories. Tales to Tell sparks imaginations, promotes written communication, and expands vocabularies. The game relies upon sentence starters as the spine on which to build a story. This popular technique teaches how to tell a well-constructed story by providing a path with which to proceed. There are 3 noun card categories that are intentionally kept neutral. So, the wizard can be the hero of the story or the villain. Describe cards are used to better define the noun cards. Verbs move the story forward. Modify cards can change the feeling of a verb. Conjunctions and pronouns connect other cards to create a complete sentence. Think and speak cards help to reveal a character's motivations. In the game, players create a story together by using sentence prompts, vocabulary cards, their own imaginations, and group decision-making. There are 4 steps to each round of the game. Step 1. The group takes turns placing and arranging cards, building out a sentence together. Step 2. Each player uses their imagination to write a follow-up sentence to one that they just created. Step 3. The players decide, as a group, which written sentences should become part of the story. Step 4. Before the group moves on to the next sentence starter, it's important that the scribe writes down the story so far. Once completed, the story can be uploaded, transcribed into text, and printed out, thereby creating a permanent document and keepsake, which gives children a sense of pride in authorship and accomplishment. By contributing to a group story, children receive positive reinforcement in their ability to express themselves. This game gets kids to tap into their creativity, enhance their writing skills, and build stories of their own imagination. It also provides families a way to spend time together, creating memories by doing something that is both fun and educational. While Tales to Tell was designed in response to shortcomings of remote learning, it is sure to inspire children for years to come. Thank you.
Today, I want to tell you a story about Miranda. This is a story from NPR that has deeply resonated with me this past year. Miranda was facing some challenging times. She was 18, and while others she knew were going to college, she was pregnant. She remembers feeling excited, but nervous and uneasy at the same time. Miranda hired a midwife, E, who asked Miranda if she had ever considered not vaccinating her child. E went on to describe a frightening story about how the light had left her son's eyes after he got his first vaccine. She urged Miranda to do some research on her own. And Miranda, feeling very vulnerable and nervous and wanting the best for her future child, took her advice. It was so easy for Miranda to find online groups of moms with similar beliefs. They were so kind and helpful about topics that Miranda found hard to talk about with anyone else, such as breast pumps, diapers, breastfeedings, all the difficult parts about being a new mom. She really trusted them. Miranda soon gave birth, and whenever it was time to visit the doctors, she refused the vaccines. The fear of not being able to protect her child, combined with the community Miranda felt she belonged in, was compelling enough to keep her entrenched in this belief system. At a certain point, Miranda began to see some cracks. Some of the people in these groups had odd beliefs, things that Miranda herself didn't subscribe to, such as AIDS not existing, climate change wasn't real, and so on. And then it hit her. If she didn't believe them on these other ideas, then why was she trusting them on vaccines? This was a signal that Miranda needed to step back and reconsider the issue all over again from a more logical standpoint. She started reading up on CDC journals and research papers. It didn't take long for her to get her child vaccinated, but she couldn't believe how easy it was for her emotions to influence what she believed. Now, before we proceed, I want you to reflect for just a moment. Think about times when you faced difficulty, when you felt vulnerable. Who was there for you? How did they help you? And most importantly, did you respect and look up to what they had to say? You may have had a completely different life from Miranda, but like her, you've probably gone through some similar stages in life, such as being in a difficult or scary situation and finding others to confide in and trust. These are common struggles and experiences, and while our backgrounds might give rise to differences, ultimately we all desire surroundings that make us feel safe and respected. Despite these common desires, we are more divided than ever. For the past several years, it has seemed like we're living in multiple Americas, each side viewing the other as an incompatible dystopian counterpart. However much we want to say, they're not representative of us, this isn't America, recent catastrophes like the pandemic have shown that we need each other in order to move forward. Discomfort over differences can be the impetus for change, but only if we make ourselves open to understanding where those differences come from. In reality, this is much harder than we realize. This prompted me to find out why exactly it was so hard to see past our differences. I started by asking 44 people what they thought about America's political divisions. And one of the resounding questions that I heard was, why can't other people just be more open-minded? I realized that this question came from a place of resoluteness in one's own beliefs. We tend to seek validation and agreement from others, but we don't ask ourselves enough how we can be more open-minded about people we may disagree with. I wanted to create something that gives people the space to learn more about others and question the origins of their own views so that they can be in a better place to be open-minded in future debates and disagreements. Based on that mission to foster self-reflection and awareness, I created Roots of Our Beliefs, an interactive storytelling experience. Roots of Our Beliefs consists of 4 main parts. From a diverse set of stories, you pick one to follow at a time. You read through it, reflecting on your own parallel experiences. And when you're done, you can revisit your learnings, and the cycle repeats. As you enter for the first time, you see one of the core tenets of this experience, which is to communicate that we have more in common than it seems. From this, you'll be led into the homepage, where you can select from a number of stories to walk through, like Miranda's story. The titles are intentionally vague, only including first names so that you aren't biased by any preconceived notions of who these people might be. Each story is written and structured to help you focus on universal human desires and struggles. This shifts your focus from the content of their beliefs to their mental and emotional processes. By providing this context, we allow you to understand where they come from, even if you disagree with them. Another core part of this experience is the reflection process. You'll notice that every chapter contains a prompt to reflect. This allows you to mirror the person in the story by thinking about your own parallel experiences. It's as if you're having a conversation with the person in the story, mutually exchanging thoughts and feelings. As you complete the story, a new flower will appear on your profile page, representing that you've successfully completed a process of growth and reflection. And by clicking on the flower, you are able to revisit your process of growth. You can click on each stage to remember what you thought about it at a certain point in time, which increases your own self-awareness. My hope is that by using Roots of Our Beliefs, we can set time and space for ourselves to really question why we react the way we do to certain beliefs and to challenge our own. This will help us diffuse those arguments and reconsider new perspectives, which will make way for an era of unlearning our biases and reimagining a less divided world. Thank you.
Sophia, congratulations on developing Roots of Our Beliefs.
Thank you so much.
One question I have is that, when you think about political divisiveness, you've married it with this really beautiful sort of poetic illustration of roots and trees, but it's not the first thing you would think of. So what inspired you to use that analogy of nature?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple things I was thinking about. Political divisiveness tends to be a very stressful topic, and I think it conjures a lot of these images that stress people out. And so for my project, I sort of wanted to create like an abstraction that wouldn't remind people of that. And so I think nature is like both very calming and sort of removed enough from the divisiveness that we know to be like an effective metaphor. And then the second thing was I was sort of thinking about like, roots and how they all lead up to sort of the same plant at the end of the day. And I was like, oh, like this sort of ties in nicely to the goal of my project. Like, even though we all sort of have like these separate roots or like, I guess life journeys, ultimately, like there's still a lot of things that we have in common, which is to live a good life. So that was sort of how I developed that metaphor.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I want to call out one design decision to hear you talk through, which is when you're exploring in your interface, instead of clicking on topics that you're interested in, you have people click on people's names. Why did you decide to use names versus topics?
Yeah, I think so. Before I had the topics there, but I got questions about, how can you really ensure that people who are going on to this experience are going to be exploring topics that are different than the ones that they usually talk about, the ones that they're familiar with. And so I think, to sort of provide this like element of surprise and to ensure that you don't go into this with any sort of preconceived biases. There's only the names there, so that you just see the name and you're like, oh, like cool, I want to know about this person, rather than like this is what their beliefs are, which can lead down to that sort of divided path. So yeah, I think like moving forward, maybe I would like explore some different ways in terms of scaling if there are more stories added. But yeah, that was my rationale for having the names.
Yeah, it adds like more of a human element versus maybe falling into a topic that you already have some preconceived notion about. That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's been obviously a really tough, unique 8 months being in grad school. What would you say was the hardest part about developing your thesis?
Wow. I think for me personally, this was a topic that resonated with me a lot. And I think one of the most challenging things was ultimately like wanting to come up with something that I was proud of at the end, but also feeling like this is such a vast problem. Like, and given that polarization, there's so many overlapping issues with it. It's so hard to sort of pinpoint one thing and say like, hey, like if I solve this, it'll solve the problem. So I think it was sort of like my own expectations of the project, as well as like sort of the difficulty of the project that I chose. But ultimately, I think like I'm really happy with what I came up with. So yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations again. It's a really poetic, inspirational take on divisiveness, and I think there's a lot to be learned from it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been a great journey for me.
Now, take a second to imagine that you are having a meal with families and friends. Everyone's eating while happily chatting about things happening recently. Suddenly, someone stops talking and is clutching at her throat. Oh no, looks like she's choking. What should we do? If the person's unable to speak or cough, it is important that someone else calls EMS immediately. However, it can take more than 8 minutes for an ambulance to arrive. Meanwhile, a blocked airway can kill someone in 3 to 4 minutes. A simple first aid procedure, such as opening someone's airway, can save their life while waiting for emergency help to arrive. Knowing first aid skills can be really helpful in this and many other types of emergencies. Speaking of learning first aid, you might think of settings like this, and this. In-person hands-on training is still the most recommended way of learning first aid and CPR. However, the investment in time and money discourage many beginners. According to a first aid instructor I've spoken to, only about 5% of her students attend her class because of personal interest or reasons. And the majority only attend because their job requires certification. Or what about learning on my own at home? There are plenty of online resources that one can access for free, but the materials look dull and there's a lack of hands-on practice. In general, people find the topic of first aid boring, overwhelming, and even depressing. For that, I feel there's a need to drastically rebrand first aid education. Introducing To the Rescue. It is a website that teaches basic first aid skills through interactive lessons. The goal is to make the self-learning experience free and fun and acts like a starting point for getting people more interested in first aid and actively seek more resources. There are two main parts in the experience: learning and motivation. Let's take a look at learning first. To start with, the learner is introduced to an emergency scenario acted by animal characters. The interactive lesson will teach you how to perform first aid in this specific scenario. Instead of daunting lengthy text, the information is broken into smaller pieces. Audio elements are included during relevant steps, and the key moves are illustrated and interactive so that it's easier to understand and memorize. Before the lesson ends, there will be a short quiz to check if you have understood the content taught in the lesson. At the end of each lesson, there's a recap for you to review what's taught. There are also additional resources if you want to learn more about this skill. Besides that, you can gain coins and unlock posters and achievements by completing lessons, which I'll discuss in a few moments. The website provides a course that consists of different modules, each relating to a common type of emergency scenario. The difficulty level will gradually increase as you progress. Each module contains a few interactive lessons. And again, there are relevant resources if you want to learn more about this topic. Some people told me that they see first aid scenes on TV and in movies. However, some of the treatments depicted are not perfect, or even worse, fatal. Another type of lesson showcases clips from TV shows and movies with example of either good or bad depiction of first aid. It's a good opportunity to debunk some common myth. The wrong treatments are highlighted and explained in details. By the end of the lesson, you'll be told what are the right things to do in that case instead. There are also good examples from movies and TV shows, and those will be showcased as well. One big concern people have about learning first aid on their own is the lack of hands-on practice, and that's how it's addressed by the hands-on lessons. You'll be asked to connect your smartphone, and the position and movement data from the phone is going to be used to judge if you're performing the moves accurately. Similar to the lesson we talked about before, the context of the emergency gets introduced first. Besides the first aid instructions on the screen, you'll also be given instructions on how to complete it with your phone, and the feedback from the phone is used to control the movement of the characters on the screen. When the phone detects that you are doing a move correctly or incorrectly, there's not only feedback on the screen, but also vibration and sound feedback from your phone. Apart from learning, there's also an achievement and reward system to keep the learner interested, motivated, and keep reviewing. As you progress in the course, you can unlock achievement badges. Also, there is a collection of first aid themed posters created by artists we partner with. As you complete the relevant lessons, you will unlock certain posters. What's even better, the coins gained from completing lessons and unlocking achievements can be used in exchange for first aid related physical rewards. You can get discounts on training sessions from our partner training centers. This is to encourage the learners to get more professional instructions and get certified. You can use the coins to buy physical products, such as first aid kits and books as well. You can also purchase physical badges of achievements and copies of posters that you have unlocked. To the Rescue serves as a starting point for people to learn basic first aid systematically, and it's more fun and interactive than traditional way of learning first aid. It will raise awareness, spread the knowledge, and potentially save more lives. Thank you.
Bowen, congratulations on To the Rescue. I do have one question for you, which I think what makes your project so unique is the illustration style. And I'd love to hear you talk about like what made you create these cartoon animals.
Yeah, so actually at first I was inspired. So when I was working on doing the research for the project, I was like gathering what are the existing educational materials on first aid. And a classmate sent me like a poster, like a cartoon poster of, I think I showcased in my prototype as well, like a crocodile choking. And I thought it's very, very fun. And so I was inspired by that. And I kind of did my prototype on like doing the like a lesson in cartoon styles. And when I did the testing, like everyone loved it. And so I thought, okay, that's cool. I can proceed in this direction. So and then I kept iterating on the style of the illustration. So that's how I landed on this style.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing how you're making first aid actually fun and kind of funny in a way that gets people more interested, which, I've never seen a choking crocodile before. What would you say was the absolute hardest part of going through Thesis? If you had to pick one moment that you thought was the hardest.
I think in my case, the reason I started working on the topic of first aid, because in the first place, I was kind of part of my target audience, knowing almost absolutely nothing about first aid. So then through the process, I have to keep educating myself about like the content, what I have to do in certain like emergency scenarios, and I have to get certified so that I feel like I'm qualified to work on this topic. So I feel like constantly like educating myself on the subject matter is kind of hard for me throughout the process.
Yeah. And then what would you say, what was like, did you have any aha moments, or what was the highlight of going through Thesis? It's been 6-7 months. What would you say is one of the top moments for you?
Yeah, I feel like I have some doubt about like we discussed before. I had some doubt about the style, like the cartoon style. Some people may think at first I'm worried people may think it's only for kids or something. But then after I test with people, and I was assured that they think it's also a good solution for a wider range of audience, not only for kids. So I think that gives me more confidence in like continuing down the path. So yeah.
So the process of testing and like seeing that people actually liked the cartoon animals.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think will happen with To the Rescue? Is it a project that you're interested in moving forward, or do you think you're happy with it where it landed with Thesis?
Yeah, I don't know if I can find the right partner. I'm imagining like maybe organizations like Red Cross or schools might be interested in support such type of project. And if I find the right type of support, I might think of continuing it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations again for finishing your thesis.
Thank you.
Back in 2015, I graduated from Indiana University, and as you can see, I was ready to take the creative world by storm. But after a few months in the real world, grinding in a startup, I realized something. There was a giant hole in my education. I was dreadfully unprepared to manage my personal finances. And I'm not an outlier. According to the TIAA Personal Finance Index, a long-term financial literacy study, 18 to 39-year-olds' average score on their test was a 46%. That's a big fat F. Now, take it from me. The allure of startup life is without a doubt enticing, but the freedom and flexibility come at a price, and that price is no retirement benefits. As an inexperienced 22-year-old, I was required to make serious financial decisions, and I didn't even know where to begin. But I was lucky because my dad just happens to be a retirement and personal finance guru, and he helped me set up my own investing strategy. But even with his support, I struggled to hold myself accountable because I was focused on my career and didn't have the time or energy to plan for the future. Having a retirement guru for a dad is definitely unique, but struggling to set up a strategy to accumulate wealth is not. In fact, my generation were not so good at it. We've accumulated less wealth than any similarly aged cohort between 1989 and 2007. So naturally, we're not so keen on saving for retirement. But get this, we actually want to retire earlier. Now that is some serious cognitive dissonance. The harsh reality is that if we want to maintain our standard of living in retirement, we need to start taking our finances a little bit more seriously. So I thought, how can I influence young creative professionals to make smarter financial decisions so that they can accomplish their life goals? Introducing Happy Path, a platform that helps young creative professionals establish and maintain a path to financial security by offering a community-based framework to manage their financial life. Getting started on Happy Path is a breeze. Recent graduates can join their university's community, securely link their bank account, and launch their voyage towards financial security. You're probably wondering how it works, so let me show you. Happy Path's core functionality is broken down into 4 stages that work in concert to help young creative professionals see how investing can help them accomplish their life goals, make better financial decisions by structuring complex choices, track, manage, and compare their financial behavior to their peers, and connect with like-minded alumni for advice. Now let's dive in. Understanding how your spending and savings habits today affect your future can be incredibly hard to visualize, especially in your 20s. That delayed feedback loop is what Happy Path is designed to address. The Life Map is a priming tool that's goal is to help users see how investing can help them live their best life. Users can map life goals like attending grad school or buying a house to better understand the costs associated with living their dreams. The map also holds you accountable so that you can make the right decisions today and live the life you desire tomorrow. At Happy Path, we recognize that financial education is viewed as a colossal time commitment. That's why we've developed simple modules that guide you through pivotal moments in your life. So when you plot events like graduating college or starting a new job on the Life Map, you'll be prompted to complete a corresponding module that offers a path of least resistance to financial security. So as an example, let's say you just graduated from college. The Happy Path graduation module is designed to walk students through the process of setting up their personal finance and investing strategy. In the module, you'll learn the basics of investing from certified financial advisors, receive personalized service recommendations, and access to exclusive Happy Path promotions to ensure that you take advantage of the best products the financial industry has to offer. Now today, it seems like every app allows you to view all of your financial metrics in one place. But creatives without a financial background, it's difficult to interpret if you're overspending, not investing enough, or even what you should be aiming to achieve. Happy Path solves this problem by suggesting personalized targets based on your income, identifying trends in your behavior, and providing insights so that you can spend and save smarter. To benchmark your activity and spark a little motivation, Happy Path also anonymously compares your financial activity against your peers, fellow alumni who are in a similar income bracket, work in the same creative field, and live in a comparable city. Now, everyone's financial life is incredibly nuanced, but especially for creatives who frequently change jobs and freelance. That's why we pride ourselves on cultivating a network of certified alumni to help the next generation of leaders make the transition from student to professional. So, as an example, let's say you're a recent grad and just started freelancing. You have a few clients under your belt, but are uncertain about how to manage your business and personal life separately. So you head over to Happy Pat's community to find a mentor that's lived a similar experience. And after a quick search, you discover Wade. He's certified in savings and has been running his freelancing business for over 10 years. Wade is exactly the type of person you're looking to speak with. So you book a meeting for the next day. On the call, you and Wade instantly connect, and he shares the lessons he learned from starting his own design business, like the importance of opening a separate bank account and setting up bi-weekly salary transfers to reduce overspending. We believe that Happy Pat's holistic approach to personal finance can help creatives overcome the financial literacy gap and provide them with the freedom to accomplish their life goals today, tomorrow, and in retirement. Thank you.
Every year, it's estimated that the world generates 1.3 billion tons of food waste. In fact, if food waste were a country, it would be the world's third largest emitter of greenhouse gases after the US and China. And whether you're vegetarian, paleo, or vegan, the truth is that most of our food is sent to landfills, where it will gradually break down to produce methane, which is a gas at least 25 times more planet warming than CO2. And by food, I mean all of it, even the banana peel I threw out yesterday. As soon as we change our mindset on how we view our vegetables and begin reusing them, we will start making a huge impact. But I know you're probably thinking now, I'm too busy, tired, this is not my top priority, food in my trash is not something I want to be close to. But what if I told you that I designed a service that will remove those day-to-day barriers? An easy, convenient, and affordable way for you to support the environment and local businesses. Scrapsy, the subscription service that brings you the only people excited to deal with your stinky food waste. Here's how Scrapsy works. You collect food waste at home, our composting partners pick it up, then you receive local produce. So if you're looking for a place to start composting, you can turn to Scrapsy. To get started, first download our app in your phone and begin by swiping through all the benefits that await you. And don't worry, our watermelons will make sure to guide you every step of the way. The first step will be to choose a composter that's located closest to you. For example, if you live in Brooklyn and want to get fresh produce, you should explore Ground Cycle's plants. Their compost-only options currently include surprise produce. But if what you're looking for is to get a medium-sized bag of produce at an affordable price, you should choose the biweekly plan. Then, schedule a date and time that work best for you so you can start getting your food waste picked up by this composting service. Once you have added your address and submitted a payment method, you will be able to begin exploring Scrapsy's potential. But before collecting your food waste, it's important to know how to do it properly. For that, we prepared some courses that will teach you the basics. For instance, this game teaches you what can be composted and how it affects the living organisms in the compost. This is an essential step, as contaminated food waste is a significant issue composting services face. So help us keep compost alive. Now that you have learned the basics and received your Scrapsy bucket, you're all set to start collecting your food waste until pickup day. If we take a quick tour backstage though, we will find your composter taking food waste to her composting site. She will bring some of that compost to her partner local farmers. Then, the local farmers will give her the amount of fresh produce you are expected to receive that week. Back at home, you should get an update on the upcoming produce you will soon have at your door. This will prompt you to explore and save recipes that teach you how to implement those ingredients in your cooking so you don't feel overwhelmed. Once it's time for pickup, you will meet with your composter and dump that week's food waste into his bucket. The composter will proceed to give you that week's produce and scan your unique QR code to confirm the pickup and amount collected. This will allow you to track your progress and visualize how much food waste you have diverted. So with Scrapsy, you will be able to reduce your food waste and carbon footprint by separating the compostables from your trash. You will also enrich soils and improve our planet's overall health by having our composting partners pick up your food waste. You will learn how to use your produce smartly in and out of the kitchen by following our tips and recipes, and even have the opportunity to get farm fresh produce at your door, thanks to the alliances our composting partners have with local farms. If composting practices increased worldwide, we could reduce emissions by 2.1 billion tons by 2050. We can avoid more dire impacts of climate change, and it is in our power to take the steps needed for it. Scrapsy provides you that chance, the opportunity to easily and conveniently reduce your carbon footprint and fight climate change. So don't get discouraged. Get Scrapsy. Thank you.
Claudia, congratulations on developing Scrapsy.
Thank you so much, Krystal.
It looks like a real app that you could download today.
Thank you. That's what I was hoping to get with the presentation. So I'm glad you perceived it that way.
Yeah. One thing I'd love for you to clarify is who is the target audience for Scrapsy? Like technically any person in the world could compost, but who are you really going after?
Yeah, so my target audience is, there's two types of users. So one is people that have already started their journey to sustainability, but they don't have access to this type of service. And so that would be one. And then the other target user would be someone who is a beginner and doesn't know where to start looking for information and is a little overwhelmed by all the information online and can't find. For example, in my research, I found that there was a long spreadsheet where people could look for composting services near them. And so I thought that was something that I wanted to remove and help these type of users have access to composting services that was easier to find.
Yeah, definitely. And then I know we are both based in Brooklyn. Do you imagine that if Scrapsy was real, do you think you would start in cities, in suburbs? What are you thinking?
You would probably start in the cities. If it's in the suburbs, I think it would make more sense because then it might be closer to farms. And so that would be probably better for the suburbs and probably the business model of it. But I want to focus more on people who live in the cities because they don't have the space to start composting in their apartments. So yeah,
that makes sense. This has obviously been a very crazy 8 months to be in grad school. What would you say was the most difficult moment for you developing Scrapsy in this project?
I think the most difficult part, there were a lot of difficult parts, but the most difficult part was probably testing my prototype. Some of my classmates might have a project that is very digitally focused, but mine required having physical action, like actually getting a composting bin, a bucket, and collecting your food waste and getting that picked up every week. And so I wasn't able to test that, and I was hoping to be able to do that so that I could get more insights on what are some of the issues that people might face when collecting their food waste, what type of information they might need in those moments. And also figuring out what was the best approach for them to when the pickup happened. And so I think that was the most challenging part for me, trying to figure that out without being able to test it.
Yeah, because almost at the end of the day, you're solving a big, hairy logistics problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Scrapsy does. Yeah. Well, congratulations again. I hope that I see that little watermelon in the App Store. In the App Store one day. You should be really proud.
Thank you. I hope so too. We'll see where it goes. I don't know. I actually talked to my mentor about it in the beginning of our meetings, our earlier meetings, that I was hoping that this could be something that I could develop in the future, especially because I wanted to have access to this type of service. Like I want to use my own product, and so. Yeah, we'll see. She definitely gave me guidance on how to, if I wanted to bring this to companies or build things and managing companies. And so, yeah, we definitely talked about it, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it goes.
We'll see. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Krystal. And thank you so much for, guiding us through all this year of thesis. And
my pleasure. My pleasure.
Let's begin with an apology from one of the most iconic brands on the planet. Now, you're probably asking yourself, what could have Adidas done to warrant such a sincere apology? Well, this apology was in response to an unintended pun for their email marketing campaign, only a few years after the Boston Marathon bombings. Now I'm sure all of you are wondering, how could have Adidas make such a blunder? Isn't it obvious that their message was inappropriate? Well, Adidas is not alone in their mishaps. Many other Titanic companies such as Airbnb have done the same. In contrast to the company's mishaps, Adidas obviously made an insensitive remark. When companies make these unintentional mistakes within their design practices, it creates a ground for them to reinforce biases, stereotypes, and discrimination. It gives them permission that it's okay for some people to simply not care. Not only is there a societal harm done, but these mistakes end up costing individual businesses large sums of money and provide long-lasting harm to their brand. Can you imagine if this sum of money was redeployed by the companies into building out a better business by not only improving the bottom line but also helping society? So, how do we address this? First off, all these issues are interrelated. Let me walk you through this. Companies are structured in various silos, with their common goal to achieve growth and success of their product or service. We live in a complex world which has been built in systems, which have created overlaying issues, or as systems designers like to call it, wicked problems. These are difficult to account and solve for, as there are various stakeholder groups and aligning their goals can be really tough. So, how do we help companies make sense of everything and show them the systemic repercussions of their product or service? One way is by incorporating responsible design in everyday practices and creating a positive impact from down up. The conception and maintenance of a product or service requires a plethora of micro decisions to be made. This is why my target audience is the decision maker in a firm, one who has the most control over projects and someone who everyone runs by to get their nod of approval. One way to help these decision makers avoid harms and unintended consequences is with Ascent. Ascent is a tool that helps companies employ responsible design practices within everyday tasks to mitigate potential harms. We do this by educating the audience and creating awareness around responsible design practices, relying on an actionable metric based on real company data which scouts potential issues and guides you on how to solve these problems with our expert-backed resource repository. Let's see how it works. First, we educate the audience with real-world examples of harms or mishaps and their impact on various stakeholder groups. We showcase the best-in-class responsible practices and highlight how their adoption impacts your business, as well as have featured articles on current responsible events to create awareness. We have an actionable metric, which is based on real CRM company data that you can either integrate via your existing CRM platform or input manually. You could also sync your project management software to integrate project timelines. We use this data to populate your responsible standing on your responsible design front. From here, you can choose to explore each responsible design field, understand your current standing on the potential issues within it. Then you can choose a high priority issue that we have identified and get an in-depth analysis of it. Through the prediction chart, you can see how employing responsible design practices delivers a better project outlook. You can dive deeper onto your project insights as well. You can then go into addressing the project's roadblocks that we have scouted. You can see your current project timeline with potential suggestions from Ascent in order to seamlessly merge suggested solutions into your existing workflow. After that, you could get an assessment of the issue and then see how we have suggested solutions on how you can deal with it. If you choose to solve with Ascent Assist, our plugin will help you resolve roadblocks in real time. For example, this new feature campaign has not been tested with a diverse user base, and the team is neglecting their biases towards current world events like COVID-19. Ascent Assist gives you suggestions to resolve these problems as well as redirects you to third-party solutions. You could also assign these tasks to a team member within your project's team. Our open source repository lets you explore various tools and resources which are backed by experts in every field. We believe with Ascent, companies can create responsible digital customer experiences that are inclusive, equitable, and free of bias. Thank you.
Kimaya, congratulations on developing Ascent. What a huge, ambitious platform.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot.
One question I'd love for you to talk through is, what is the business model you're envisioning for Ascent? How do you charge money? How do clients pay you?
Mm-hmm. So initially what I was thinking was that it's going to be a beta, like a free beta platform. And then once we get sort of more of a customer base established and sort of have that product establishment, then we'll go forward and do like a subscription-based model. So we'd have like a monthly subscription for a certain amount of money. So yeah, that's kind of like what I was thinking. But definitely it would also need to get the funding and had to be pitched to like a VC and everything so that like that structure gets sorted as well. So yeah, that's kind of the model.
Yeah, this isn't the type of thing you can build by yourself.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
This has been such a crazy year. Obviously, all of you and your classmates working remotely through a pandemic, virtually. What would you say was the hardest part about developing your project?
Yeah, I think personally for me, because I chose to do responsible design, which is such a giant umbrella and has like multiple different things nesting under it, um, it was very difficult for me to pick one field and sort of narrow down on that. I did choose inclusion in the end, and the main reason why I did that was because it had more of an action-based metrics, and we could sort of compare that with the business goals and align those, and then give companies like a correct metrics that they can sort of rely on or fall back to, and then they can see their growth. So it was, yeah, that I think that was the most challenging part for me.
So picking parts of responsible design that are really measurable, so you can see if you're doing it or not.
Yeah, because a lot of the things are super, it's like, systems design and transition design, and like you don't know what your product or services trajectory 20 years down the line can lead to. So it's a lot of prediction in a way. So it was really important to have those everyday tasks that can be measurable, and how that impact actually extends or lasts out during your entire project trajectory. So
yeah. And I think one thing that's interesting about the topic you picked is that I'm not in responsible design, and I might not recognize always what good responsible design is, but you definitely recognize when it's bad, like those examples that you showed in your presentation.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like it's like people don't realize the magnitude of it until you have to like give them those, stark like examples, or like those crazy things that actually happen and the repercussions that it causes. But yeah, just because it's such a such a cloudy field, and not a lot of people know about it, because there's so many different aspects. And then a lot of people are like, because there's like circular economy, there's this, there's that, there's a lot of like systems changes that you need to bring about to do the things that responsible design actually strives to achieve. But I kind of took that other approach of like, those minuscule everyday tasks, and putting those things as milestones, and then achieving those to sort of mitigate those bigger problems. So yeah.
Yeah, it all starts with baby steps.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations again.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Krystal. You've been like a true helpful force as well. I want to add that, because yeah, it's been super tough, and I really appreciate you sort of guiding us throughout the way. Like, yeah, it's been tough being, remote, as well as just like all these crazy topics that everyone was doing. And yeah, like finding a mentor during these times and stuff. Like, also want to thank Albert. So yeah, it's been tough, but I'm glad that like it turned out the way it did, and thanks to you guys, it was a success. So yeah,
you and all your classmates, you should be really proud of what you've accomplished.
Yep, super proud. Cool.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex John. Since I was little, I've always fascinated by the glamorous fashion industry. I grew up watching shows and movies such as Project Runway and The Devil Wears Prada, dreaming that one day I could live in a fashion world like this. And that day actually came. I can still remember the excitement back then when I was heading into the New York City. I am moving to New York. This is where everything happens, and also the world's top fashion capital. I was thrilled to live in a city with so many stores and discounts going on. And as a fashion lover, I went out shopping a lot, almost every 2 weeks. And very soon, my tiny wardrobe was fully packed and got super messy like this. To make it worse, I didn't even wear half of the clothes that I bought. So I started reflecting and searching for ways to how to get rid of them. But I was shocked to learn that in the United States, 83% of the clothes end up in landfills or even burned. And 90% of them is sourced from cheap synthetic fibers that's made from non-renewable oils. and it could take them up to 200 years to biodegrade on the Earth. That means clothes that are thrown away at 19th centuries could still be around today, lying somewhere like this. Besides waste and pollution, fast fashion companies are producing record quantity of garments and sold at record low prices. To keep their costs down, these companies outsource their labor to countries that pay poverty wages and have higher risk of labor abuse. So with all the problems that this industry is creating, as a consumer, what should I do? So I started searching online, but I was overwhelmed by the amount of information that came out of the search. And after doing more research and speaking with people, I found that a lot of people share similar experience as I did. It's just too much information. As a beginner, trying to take in all the information and make decisions is challenging. The second problem is, everyone has different value system. One thing that's ethical to you might be completely different for another person. Another problem is misinformation. A lot of brands would use marketing strategies to exaggerate on the positive contributions they did and try to manipulate consumers to buy their products. So, how can we empower shoppers to take actions around sustainable fashion? That's why I created Conscious, a plugin that empowers shoppers to learn about fashion sustainability and make informed purchases through 4 simple steps. It allows shoppers to select their values and then learn about items that they're interested in. Then receive suggestions on better options. Last, earn rewards. And here's how it works. During onboarding, as a shopper, I will first select what I value the most when I shop from brands. I will add the plugin to my browser. Then a welcome message will show up telling me to select the sustainability-related values that I feel most aligned with. For example, I value sustainability, eco-friendly materials, and transparency. After submitting this, I will get a message that's telling me to go to any shopping website to try out the plugin. Next, Conscious will help me learn about items that I'm interested in. The plugin scraps the brand and product information, such as materials and where it's made, and then tells me how much the product matches the values that I selected before. Let's say I'm shopping for a new jacket. I'm looking at this site, and I decide to take a look at this one. When I'm in the item detail page, Conscious will pop up a window with the value match rate and ratings in different categories. For example, this item only has 1 point rated on the planet category. I can click to expand this section to see why, and it tells me the reason behind is material of the item. Through these ratings, I get to learn more specific knowledge about the jacket, and it helps me think about it more before I decide whether to buy it or not. I can always hide the window anytime and pull it back up when I want to learn more. If I click View Details, the window will expand to a web version with a whole view of the analysis. Besides top 4 ratings, Conscious provides a section that allows members to voice opinions and provide feedback. I can read others' reviews and also contribute by rating the brand and writing down my thoughts to discuss with others as well. After learning more about the item, Conscious provides a recommendation section to me when there are other similar products that better match with my values. The better match section is right below the analysis. I can use filters to narrow down the recommendations. And if I'm interested in this fleece jacket, I can click it. Then the analysis card will open up a new tab with details in it. I can then click back and forth to compare these 2 jackets and think about it more before I make the final decision. Last but not least, Conscious also encourages shoppers to learn more about fashion sustainability through rewards. We have a reward system that allows shoppers to gain Conscious points. As a shopper, I can use the points to redeem discount codes from ethical brands or support sustainable campaigns. There are different ways that I can earn points, such as take a daily quiz, lock the item in the wish list for 7 days to prevent impulse purchase, or email a brand to request more transparency. For example, I want to take the quiz today. And I decide to pick yes and submit it. It's telling me that I have the correct answer, and also provide some short stories to teach me some behind-the-scene knowledge that I should be aware of. Then I can go back to view my points and keep earning more by joining other activities. All of these are aimed to help us gain knowledge about the clothes that we wear every day and the problems that's happening in the industry. With Conscious, shoppers no longer need to spend hours doing research. Everyone can start learning, make shopping decisions more carefully, and contribute to a more sustainable future. Thank you.
Alex, congratulations on developing Conscious.
Thank you, Krystal.
It's so well thought out. You've thought of so many details. It looks like a real plugin that I could download.
Yeah, I'm glad that a lot of people, after testing it, a lot of people actually like the plugin idea because they think it's really helpful during their shopping journeys, so they don't have to go to a different app to see it. That's why I kind of like went with this idea.
Yeah. One thing I'd love for you to explain is, I know in the user journey, if I downloaded Conscious, I could select my values and that would change the clothes that I see. But can you talk through, like, how does selecting values actually change what I see?
Yeah, definitely. So the only thing that will change a lot is the number of the match rate. So for example, if you value planet and you value transparency, what we're going to show you on the ratings will stay the same for like different items, but the match rate number will change. And how it works is, for example, some of the values might be really contradicting. So if you want to be protecting the planet, and maybe you're also thinking about, oh, should I also protect the animals? For example, one thing is if you choose to look at an item that's like fox fur made by polyester, that thing is really great for animals because it's vegan leather, use made of that. But then sometimes when people use that, it actually destroys the environment a lot more because it's really hard to biodegrade. So if one person, for example, choose both animals and planet, we will explain that concept to them and say, this might be a little bit contradicting, and we're trying to teach them to understand these aspects and define their values more as they use this tool. Some people might think, oh, I want to pick all of them, but then it might reflect as like a lower score for a lot of the items that they're picking. So we're trying to push that feedback back to them and at the same time educate people so they know what they really value the most while they go through the whole shopping journey.
Yeah, okay. So you can see clearly what happens. That contradictoriness about like vegan leather and vegan fur is really interesting. I don't know that most people know that.
Yeah, that's the thing that I also discovered myself when I was doing my research, and I think it's really valuable point to share this out to people because it's actually a really common thing in this industry, but a lot of people doesn't know that, and they think vegan leather is good because I'm protecting the animals. But at the same time, if you impulse buy a lot of vegan leathers, they are really bad for the environment because they're costing a lot of energy and they will stay on the earth a lot longer than other materials. So basically, we're trying to educate people on those aspects and try to make people think more before they make the decisions to buy stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. One question that just popped into my head is, your plugin is obviously very powerful for shoppers and consumers. Mm-hmm. What do you think fashion companies would think about your plugin? Do you think they would be excited? Do you think some would be, scared of it?
Yeah, I would say a lot of, especially fast fashion companies, would really be scared about these kind of concepts. But what I'm trying to do is to use this as setting a standard, basically. So we're trying to let more users understand what this industry is going through, and if we can have more voice coming from the consumer side, brand will be better in terms of setting their standard to make it better and to be more sustainable. Otherwise, a lot of people will just be sometimes fooled by some of the greenwashing strategies by some of the fast fashion industry. And what I'm trying to do is setting the standard and make the brands more transparent and being honest about what they're doing. And I would say it's definitely going to be positive for the brands if they are actually trying to be more transparent and seeing people are really hoping to see what they're changing. And that's actually good and a positive thing for the brand to do. And so I would say first scared, but it's a force that's also pushing them to be more positive and be recognized by the public.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like if they are scared, then it's something that the public should know about, that these companies are greenwashing or doing something harmful. Yeah. Well, congratulations again, and I'm really excited to see where Conscious goes.
Thank you so much.
Hi again, Liz Danzico, chair and co-founder of the Interaction Design Program, with just a few closing words of thanks to everyone who has made today possible. The class of 2021 is extraordinarily grateful to the guidance of all of our thesis advisors. Thank you so much for everything you've done over the course of several months for these students. Thank you. We're also extremely grateful to everyone on our staff who's helped make all of this possible. Stephen Mayer, Director of Operations, Rodel Owega, Senior Systems Administrator, Eric Foreman, who's faculty and head of innovation and student advisor, also on sabbatical right now. Our former staff member and communications specialist, Naomi Barth, and not on staff, but helping out staff, first-year students Sharon Lee and Alice New, who are the festival designers for Metamorphosis. So thank you to all of you. We're especially grateful for the special efforts of Bill Smart, who is a public speaking advisor for the program and helps all of our students do their best work in the public speaking arena. Thank you, Bill, and to your staff. And always the class of 2011 to be for your guidance and your architecture of the program. And we are deeply grateful for the ongoing support of David Rhodes, SVA President, Dr. Chris Cyphers, our Provost, Anthony Rhodes, SVA Executive Vice President, Stephen Heller, our program's co-founder. And with that, I especially want to thank the class of 2021. You have indeed made the ultimate change. Thank you all. Congratulations and good luck to you in this new chapter. Thank you, everyone.